The day came when a little girl watched her family die. She watched with sadness and thought that she didn't want to die either. The Grezikai royal family, and they all had golden hair, bright as the sun, the symbol of the Grezikai. All royals have golden hair, except for one person, Princess Clarissa. She inherited her pink hair from her illogical maid mother. The maid disappeared without a trace as soon as she gave birth to Clarissa, and so the baby was left alone. And as the princess grew older, the royal family became increasingly cruel to her. One day when the girl was walking in the garden, she found some stones that she really liked because she thought they were beautiful. But in order to get them, she had to get dirty. Suddenly, the little girl saw her family members and thought that they usually don't go along this road. But she had to leave quickly because if they saw her, they would scold her again. But suddenly, the main character falls and her stones spill out onto the road. She realized that she had to go and pick them up, but when she bent down to pick up the stone, she felt pain, and it turned out that her older brother had kicked her. The prince asks what she is doing. The girl turns to the guy and calls him brother, and then asks for forgiveness and explains that from now on, she will be careful. But before she could finish speaking, this man hits her in the face. The prince asks how she dares to jump out like that, and then asks what kind of brother he is. He says that she did not dare to classify him as a half-breed like her because he considers it disgusting. The queen turns to the prince and tells him to stop it. Then she says that it is true that the girl was rude and asks if it is appropriate for members of the royal family to be handsy. Hearing this, the prince was surprised, and Her Majesty asked if he would suddenly catch something from her. And at this time, the main character, immersed in her memories, saw how the queen who always laughed at her was executed. She looked at the prince and did not understand how he could be so calm. And at this time she thought that she was afraid because she did not want to die like that. Clarissa starts crying and says that she wants to live. At this time the knight approached the prince in order to execute him too. However, the prince suggests finishing off this mongrel first. The young master says that he is not going to beg for his life because he believes that the last surviving member of the Grezikai royal family should not be this half-breed, even if only for a few seconds. Hearing this, the girl asks for forgiveness and begs to spare her life. And at that time, she saw the knight raise his sword and realized that she did not want to die like that. Well, as it turned out, the man finished off her older brother, and the little girl closed her eyes and thought that she was not hurt. The knight says that it was a good offer. The man with blonde hair and blue eyes says that even if it makes him feel ashamed for a second, it makes him want to do it even more, and then asks his brother if that's true. His Majesty says that there is enough entertainment and suggests that they finish with this, since the smell of the red liquid is so strong that he wants to wash it off as soon as possible. The knight turns to His Majesty and says that he cannot kill the princess. Hearing this, the little girl is surprised, and the surprised king asks what he is talking about, and also wonders if he said it out of pity. The man with black hair replies that Chapter 12, Paragraph 17 of the national law states that geasa cannot be committed against persons under the age of 18. The knight claims that the princess has not yet reached adulthood, and therefore cannot be executed. His Majesty asks if he means to say that he will spare the royal family of the defeated nation, just for the sake of observing one law. The man with black hair asks for forgiveness and says that this is not just one law, because no king in history has ever broken it. His Majesty says that he knew he was so naive, but did not expect him to be so stubborn, and then says that even if it is tainted blood, it is still royal, and this is also the last remaining royal person. The king claims that she will grow up, and it will be very difficult to achieve revenge by making excuses and making excuses. And then he approached the girl, and she screams and explains that she will not do this because she does not want to take revenge. Clarissa says that her brother, as His Majesty said, is a half-blood, and then asks how she dares to think about the place and says that she cannot. The girl says that if they leave her alive, she will live below the grass and quieter than water, and swears to them this, and then begins to cry. The king looked at her and said that it was so amazing, and asked why there were all sorts of hybrids constantly circling around, and then said that it would be like his brother. His Majesty says he will grant his wish and let the child live until she is 18. However, he must take responsibility and take her to Sheridan. The knight took the girl by the hand, and she thought that she really had not died. The king suggests that he not forget that on the day this child comes of age, he will have to cut off her head and bring it to him. The capital of the kingdom of Shefos, a servant informs the duke that his assistant Quentin has arrived. When the man enters, he congratulates Maximilian on his victory. He informs him that his majesty was disappointed and that he will return directly to Sheridan without attending the banquet in honor of the conquest. The duke says that the banquet is over and they can't leave Sheridan empty for too long. Then he says that he now understands why he is there and asks if he should deliver the information. The assistant objects and says that he actually came to tell her something else, and then says that he heard that he will take the dream princess to Sheridan. The man says he'll be frank with him, and then says he's against the idea of taking her with him. The gentleman asks why, and the assistant asks how he plans to raise a princess in Sheridan. The duke says he doesn't understand what the problem is, and then asks if he thinks Sheridan doesn't have enough money and manpower to raise a child, and just one small child. The assistant screams and says that it is so sad, and that is not what he meant. Then he suggests listening carefully, and that no matter how steadfast the duke is, the children are extremely charming. The gentleman asks what the problem is, and he replies that if the duke raises a tiny lovely child for several years, he will certainly develop an attachment to him. The man says that this is a cute little baby feeding her, putting her to bed, then he will watch her grow with love for her uncle and aunt, and he will watch her grow bigger and bigger. The assistant asks if he is going to kill the child he loves when she turns 18. Then he will cut off her head and present it to his majesty. The duke claims that this will never happen to him and considers attachment to be ridiculous. He claims that the princess is only a prisoner of war and they did not execute her only because of the law of the kingdom of Shefos. The man says that even if she wasn't a prisoner, it wouldn't change anything, and then says that the people of Sheridan will love this child. The gentleman claims that this is absurd because he believes that her very existence could become the spark for the restoration of the kingdom. The assistant asks if he means to say that he could raise the child himself and then kill him on his 18th birthday. The duke replies that he did. He heard the man say that it would be better to kill the princess today. At this time, a girl came into their room and asked in surprise if she needed to die now. The duke asks the princess why she came, and the assistant says that she wanted to see the duke. The girl falls to her knees and then apologizes and explains that she wasn't eavesdropping on purpose because she came to tell the man in glasses something. She says that she will quietly pass by as if she doesn't exist and will take care not to disturb the duke. Clarissa asks if they could reconsider their decision again. The assistant says that this is not it, and he does not know anything, and at that time he felt remorse, and then leaves the office and says that he leaves it to the duke and claims that he clearly warned him that this is something that he cannot do. At this time, the gentleman thought that Clarissa was an illegitimate child, and judging by her actions, it seemed that she was not treated as a princess in her homeland. But nevertheless, this does not change the fact that she is of royal blood. The duke realizes that the sight of Grezkai as he marches has been truly horrific. Villages devastated by the ongoing atrocities, children dying of hunger and disease in the streets, and soldiers begging for food from their enemies. The ruling family drowning in luxury and pleasure did not pay attention to such things, and he did not feel sympathy for the princess of such a selling kingdom. The gentleman turns to Clarissa Lenin Grezke and claims that he will say it clearly that on her 18th birthday he will immediately kill her. And at this time, the gentleman thought that he could already change the expression on her face because he believed that she would probably ask him again to save her life. Hearing this, the girl was surprised and asked if he would really allow her to live until she turned 18. And then she thanked the Lord and said that she had decided that he had changed his mind again. The princess says that the truth is that she was always mentally prepared that someone like her should not live too long. After all, her older brother always said that as soon as he ascended the throne, the first thing he would do would be to get rid of the mongrels. Hearing this, the Duke was surprised, and the girl continued to say that her brother said that he would kill her before she turned 12, and then she thanks the master because she believes that now she will be able to live until she is 18. The girl says that this is why she really wants to express her gratitude, and then thanks him because she considers him her benefactor. Sitting in the carriage, the main character thought that she would like someone to save her, and before leaving for Sheridan, the knight asked his servants if any of them would take care of the princess. However, they all refused with stupid excuses. At this time, the assistant thought about whether it was really so unbearable to look after the child, and the master says that there is no other choice, and he, Quentin, will be responsible for protecting the princess. Hearing this, the man was surprised, and the Duke reminded him that he said that he loved children and asked if that was true. Sitting in the carriage, Quentin thought about not dumping everything on him right away. After all, he understands that the Duke is undoubtedly the closest person to him, but he wonders how he can be alone with a child whom he will have to kill when she turns 18. After some time, the man does not understand why she behaves so quietly, but thinks that she may be watching his every move. Quentin realizes that he won't be able to find the right words because being ignored for 18 years doesn't mean he won't say, haha. The man asks why there is so much dust, and the girl apologizes and says that it is because of her, because she is dirty. Quentin remembers that he asked the Duke to swap with him because he can't do it. He suggests that the Duke, not him, experience the feeling of spending hours in a silent carriage. The Duke asks without a word and then wonders if he didn't say he would explain to the girl everything about life in Sheridan. The assistant objects and says that he was going to do it, but that child kept watching her the entire carriage ride, then asks how he can tell her that in Sheridan she will be treated like a sinner and not a princess. Quentin tells the girl that when she arrives in Sheridan, she must throw away all things related to Grezekai, and then screamingly suggests that she not forget that she is a prisoner of war and live peacefully. He informs her that from now on, birthday celebrations are strictly prohibited, and she knows the reason better than anyone else. The man asks the princess if she heard everything, and the Duke says that he must confirm it again. He says that they will not treat her like a princess, and all her things will be thrown away, and birthday celebrations are forbidden, and asks if she will follow these 3 rules. Clarissa reports that she had never considered herself a princess before, and that her birthday was never celebrated because she lived as if she were dead to everyone and had always been that way. Hearing this, everyone was surprised, and the girl asks them only for one thing, and then shows the stones that she wants to be next to her. The Duke says that he allows her to enter the Sheridan, and then reminds her to be careful because the birthday party and noise are prohibited. And then he gives her the stones and suggests returning to the carriage. At this time, the main character thought that, thank God the Duke was truly a kind person, because he gave her the stones that she called softies. The Duke says that Quentin will continue to be responsible for protecting the prisoner until they arrive in Sheridan, northern city of the Kingdom of Shifos, and all the people came out to greet the Duke, who returned after the end of the war. The main character watched from the carriage window and thought that everyone was delighted with the Duke. And as expected, Mr. Quentin was right. The assistant says that these are the words of Duke Maximilian, and he is truly a gifted man. And if he were to act as a representative of their duchy, he would certainly be the best knight in Shifos. Quentin says that the Duke has an outstanding mind with experience in any field. And in addition to everything, he has a noble status in the royal family, and there is no one who does not know Duke Maximilian. At one point, Maximilian was heir to the throne, but due to the breakup of the duke's outer family and some other circumstances among the elders, the assistant says that he is such an outstanding man that the women in the capital must be passionately seeking his favor, but believes that in any case, he is a truly remarkable man. Quentin says that he is also the one who turned the once deserted Sheridan into a livable place. The princess says that it is quite cold there and asks if this is true. The man replies that being in the north and very far from the capital, this is not surprising. After all, the city is mostly built of stone, and monsters have been there since ancient times, and it was called the Land of Death. But after the Duke's arrival, everything changed dramatically. He repaired the entire northern wall to prevent the monsters from approaching. He spared no effort in researching and supporting the residents, and therefore considers him to be the true guardian deity of the North. At this time, the man thought that he was very carried away because he understands that this child is a prisoner of the Duke, and therefore they believe that they need to keep their distance as much as possible. Clarissa asks how Mr. Quentin is of any use to such a duke, and then informs him that he is truly an amazing man. The assistant says that even if it weren't him, anyone could handle the paperwork unless he's someone irreplaceable, like the golem master. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, and he says that she is probably at this age and does not know about it. And then he explains that in simple words, this is a sorcerer who can revive ordinary stones, and they become faithful servants for those who grant them life, obediently fulfilling any command given. The colossal golem can fight magical creatures and occasionally turn into a weapon to protect people. A prime example is the Sheridan mansion they are now heading to, and then tells them that of course it's just a normal castle now. And the girl asks in surprise why he explains that at the moment the lineage of golem masters is interrupted. The young lady says that she understands, and then says that Mr. Quentin knows everything, and he suggests calling him simply Sir. At this time, the Duke knocked on the window and told Quentin that he wanted to tell him something. The gentleman said that he would go check the north wall and come back, and therefore it could take about half an hour, and suggested that they go and rest. Hearing this, the assistant asks in surprise how this is possible, and then claims that he just returned and wonders if he can even catch his breath. Maximilian replies that he has been away from Sheridan for too long due to the war, and therefore believes that they cannot afford to neglect their safety in the winter when magical creatures are active. Quentin says that he understands and then claims that he needs to return quickly because he mentioned that as soon as he returns, he will throw a party, and asks if that is true. The gentleman says that the prisoner remains under his supervision. Quentin replies that this is impossible, and he asks in surprise why. The assistant asks how he, a simple servant, can take something out of the mansion without the mistress's permission, and then says that it is entirely within her competence. Maximilian says that he understands, and then offers to tell the Duchess that he will leave the child with her for some time, and then says that he will go north and return. Quentin asks him to be careful on the way. The assistant informs the girl that from now on she can use the servant's staircase, and explains that the central staircase is intended only for members of the Duke's family and authorized personnel. Clarissa says she'll keep that in mind. At this point, the man thinks that considering it's a child with the main staircase may be a little too much. But unnoticed, walking through the gatherings, the girl stumbled and fell. He asks in surprise if she is okay, and also wonders if she has damaged anything. The young lady replies that everything is fine, and then says that it is a little uncomfortable to move. He asks if the cape prevents her from moving. Clarissa leaves her cape, and the man says that first she must greet the Duchess, and asks if she knows the basics of etiquette. The main character remembers that the Queen taught her, and she said that a royal descendant should not lack manners and behavior. The girl does not understand why she suddenly became so scared, because she knows that the Duchess is not a queen, and she wondered if she would have problems if she made a mistake, if it would be the same as then. Clarissa noticed stones on the wall, and the man asks if she is talking to the wall. Quentin explains that this is the same mansion they talked about in the carriage and says that he can turn into a golem. And compared to the royal palace, it is simple and not so impressive. The young lady touches the wall and says that he is very kind and handsome. The head maid asks the master if he has returned, and the man says that it seems that they met at the right time and asks if the duchess is in her chambers. The maid says that the lady is now resting, and then asks if he knows how upset the lady was, and then states how the duke could leave immediately without even greeting his wife. The assistant explains that he will return in 3 or 4 days, and therefore suggests not to be too strict. The maid asks why he is looking for the duchess. He replies that this child was brought from the Grezikai, and he would like to entrust her to the duchess. The girl greeted the maid, and she asked if this was the child, and then said that it would be better to wash before meeting the duchess. Quentin smiled and said that the trip was long, so they couldn't get themselves together, and then asked if he could trust her with the child in that case. The maid says that she will go and get ready, and the man invites the girl to follow Miss Bessie. The main character became interested in whether bathrooms are usually located in such places, and when Miss Bessie told her to come in, the girl was surprised by what she saw. The woman claims that from now on she must answer all her questions honestly. She asks if the girl arrived with the Duke from Grezikai. She also asks if there were women among the Duke's escort. Hearing this, the young lady does not understand why she suddenly asks her about this. She answers that many knights came with her, but the woman interrupts her and screams, saying that this is disappointment because she does not understand what she is telling her. The maid suggests listening to her carefully and then explains that she is talking about adult women who may have had particularly good relationships with the Duke, and not about knights or soldiers. Bessie claims that it is the lady's order, and so she will have to think carefully and tell her, and then asks if she wants to be scolded from day one. Hearing this, the child does not understand what to do, because she believes that the adult woman who seemed to be on good terms with the Duke, but there were only knights and Sir Quentin there. The little girl thinks that in situations like this, she should lie so that she gets scolded less. The maid asks what she thinks. Now Clarissa replies that she cannot tell her. She screams and asks why the baby cannot speak. Bessie asks if the Duke has silenced her yet. Then she says, "What's the point of checking the north face? And by now he's already with a woman." Clarissa claims that this is not true because the Duke is not here now, and she does not think that they should talk about such things. And then she says that she does not know if there is some misunderstanding, but she believes that the Duke is a really good man, and therefore asks not to speak carelessly about him. Hearing this, the woman got angry, and screaming asked how dare she who was captured in the war contradict. And then she swung to hit the girl, but suddenly changed her mind and said that nothing can be done if she does not want to talk. Bessie informs her that, as expected, she cannot allow her to see the lady. The girl objects and says that Sir Quentin said she must greet her. The maid tells her to shut up, and not a word or a whisper, and then says that she is a sinner, and she still wants to get to know her after disobeying her order, and claims that it is so shameless. The woman says that she should be grateful that she was not locked in the dungeons. The next day, the Duchess tells Bessie that she heard that the child she is to take care of will arrive today, and then asks if she has arrived yet. The maid assures that the mistress does not need to worry about this, and the lady, surprised, asks what she is talking about. Bessie explains that even if she and the child are prisoners of war from a defeated country, she then asks if there is any point in the Duchess worrying about something like that, and claims that she will do it because a lady shouldn't worry about it, and neither should the Duke, and then asks why he brought her. After all, she thinks it would have been better if he had finished her off right there. The Duchess grabs the maid by the hand and claims that she is speaking too harshly, and then asks where the child is now, and also wonders if it is possible that she did something to her. Bess takes her hand away and tells her to leave it, and then tells her that since she keeps treating her like a lady, she thinks she's become a real duchess, and then claims she's a fake. and points her finger at her, asking if she's come to her senses. The woman says that if she has time to worry about a child she doesn't even know, then she should spend it thinking about how to please the Duke. The maid screams and says that when he returns, he must have an heir at all costs. Even if the marriage was forced, she asks if there is any point in pretending that they are strangers to each other for 3 years. Then she claims that if they find out that she is a fake before they have children, it is all over for Darrington, and asks if she understands. The Duchess says she understands, and then apologizes. At this time, the main character sitting alone in the room does not understand what to do, and remembers that she made a promise to Sir Quentin, but was unable to greet the Duchess. The girl thought that the maid was right, because even the Duchess would not want to be with someone like her. And therefore she thought that she was really stupid, because she imagined that the Duchess and Sir Quentin would treat her kindly. Clarissa believes that she is a burden that should disappear when she turns 18, and then the girl fell asleep with a stone in her hand. At that moment, the Duchess entered the girl's room, and then laid her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. And at that moment, she thought that she could not believe that the maid allowed such a small child to sleep on the cold floor. The lady understands that in addition the state of the premises is such that she needs to clean it up, and therefore believes that she must demonstrate her skills after a long time. The Duchess spent the whole night cleaning the room, and in the morning she realized that the room was shining. She brought the girl bread from the home kitchen, and then stroked her hair and said that she was sorry. But if she could, she would immediately take her out of this room. But she was a duchess only in words. Suddenly, the baby moved, and the woman thought that she had almost woken her up, and therefore thought that it was better for her to leave there. The Duchess believes that in any case, she cannot leave the child in such bad conditions, because she does not know what to do, since the maid will not listen to her if she tells him. Suddenly, the lady heard steps, and in a minute, someone grabbed her hand, and she saw the Duke and was surprised. Maximilian apologizes and explains that he noticed a suspicious shadow right in front of him, and that is why he acted so unconsciously. She explains that it seems he misunderstood, and then asks why the Duke is here now, since she heard that he will not return for 3 days. The Duke explains that he returned immediately after making sure that there were no problems with the northern wall, and then states that he cannot leave the mansion for long. Maximilian asks the lady why she is here at this time. Hearing this, she realized that this is an inevitable question, and she does not understand how she should explain why she was caught by the Duke and not by someone else. The lady realized that maybe this was for the best, and then explained that she had a request. The next morning, the main character doesn't understand why Softy keeps waking her up, and then says that she wants to sleep a little more. The little girl was surprised when she saw her room, because it became so clean, and it was also warm, and there was food, and she thought that a fairy had been there. Clarissa asks Softy what happened yesterday, because he knows, and asks if it is so. And when the girl heard that the Duchess did all this, she was surprised. And then she says that it can be because she thinks that she is a terrible person, and explains that she says that the stone is lying to her. The girl touched the bread and wondered if she could eat it, but she felt hungry and then began to eat. After eating one bun, which was very tasty, she wanted another one. The main character thought that she mistook the Duchess for a scary person, and therefore apologizes. At this time, the maid walking along the corridor thought that the baby should have woken up already, and she thinks that this girl is behaving like a child, but she needs to teach her a lesson so that she does not behave like that anymore. But also her crying appearance pleases her eyes. When Bessie saw a clean room and a happy girl, she screamed and asked how she, a scoundrel, enjoyed her life and stole things like a rat, and what she did for her was not enough. The maid asks the girl what is behind her back and wonders if she stole it, and therefore can't even really say anything. She tells her to give it to her so she can check. Clarissa replies that she doesn't want to, and at that time she thought that she can't take the Softy. The maid says that this girl is a naughty child, and if she said that, then she should give it to her. But the little girl objects and explains that he is her close friend. Bessie hit the girl and then took the bag from her. The surprised maid, when she saw the stone, said that she thought it was a jewel, and then asked if she made such a fuss about it, and threw it out the window. The woman asks what to do now, because her dear friend was thrown out into the street, and also wonders why she is behaving this way, because of some stone, and explains that this would not have happened if she had done what she was ordered to do. Bess tells her to wait and see that she will tell the Duke that she is disobeying, and he will punish her. At this time the Duke enters the room and asks who she will tell. Seeing the Duke, the maid was surprised, and then asked how the gentleman ended up here, since she thought that he was supposed to return in 3 days. The Duke first offers to answer his question about who to tell and for what reason, and then says that now she is forcing him to repeat it twice. Bess explains that she punished the girl because she used things from the castle as she pleased, and thinks that maybe it looked a little harsh, but for the sake of the mansion and the child, she wanted it. The gentleman asks if she finds it amusing to break the laws, and then claims that the child should grow up healthy until the age of 18, and she still beats her for discipline. The Duke asks if she is going to bear the consequences. The maid objects and says that this is not so at all, because she wanted to say that even at this time she does not understand what she should come up with as an excuse. The maid says that the Duchess ordered her to do this, and therefore she had no choice. Hearing this, the gentleman remembered that at night, when he saw the Duchess, she asked him to take care of this child. Maximilian claims that she not only broke the law, but also set up her mistress, and then orders the knights to lock the traitor in an underground dungeon. Hearing this, the maid became frightened, and then asked the Duke to forgive her and show mercy. The Duke turns to the girl and tells her to wait here because he will call her later. Clarissa apologizes and then says that her friend Softy was thinking at that time that she should be all alone outside, and if she wants to take her, then she needs to ask permission, but she thinks that she will get into trouble again. However, the main character did not dare to say it, and she wondered why the Duke said that he would call her later, and also thought that he looked upset and thought that she might be sent away too. The little girl thought that he would probably order her to be finished off right now. After some time, the servant tells the girl that the Duke is calling her. At this time, she thought that she should climb. The new maid was a kind woman, and she asks the girl if the water is hot. Then she explains that she is a little late with the introduction, and says that her name is Rosalie, and asks the lady if she will tell her her name. The little girl replies that her name is Clarissa Lennon Grezikai, and the maid says that it is a very cute name. Hearing this, the girl is surprised, and the woman says that it suits her pink hair and asks if it is so. Rosalie explains that she actually has pink hair, but it doesn't suit her very well because it's quite noticeable. And the young lady says that she wanted to have sparkling golden hair, and at that time she thought about how awkward it would be for a princess without golden hair. Clarissa asks if pink hair is better than blonde. She explains that the color is elegant and warm because it reflects Clarissa's kindness. Rosalie asks if there is a color that would suit her better than this one, and also wonders what is wrong. The girl replies that Rosalie is the queen of compliments. When the maid washed the girl, dressed her, and did her hair, she was surprised at how beautiful she was. The little girl thanks the woman and asks if she will wear something so beautiful, will the Duke be upset? She replies that not at all, and then says that the one who brought her to dress her in this beautiful clothing is him. The young gentleman asks if they have finished. Then he turns to the girl and asks if she thinks her outfit is a little thin for this weather. The maid explains that these are the only clothes that are currently available, and then says that she will order something warmer today. The young gentleman invites the girl to follow him, and then tells her that this is the room in which she will live from now on. Clarissa asks, in surprise, if he wasn't planning to finish her off today. Hearing this, the Duke asks, in surprise, what she is talking about. He claims that this is the room she will be living in from now on, and asks if she has any problems with that. The main character enthusiastically replies that there are no problems. and he asks her to extend her hand, and then he gives it to the softie. The gentleman explains that he found it under the building, and says that apparently the servant put it in the wrong place, and he apologizes on her behalf, and the girl thanked him. Maximilian gets down to business and asks how she likes the room. The little girl replies that she thinks it's too big for her. The gentleman suggests that she not take everything so superficially, and then explains that firstly, living on the second floor will not allow her to escape through the window, and a good room provides psychological stability, allowing her to avoid a riot, and it also has good insulation, which reduces the risk of catching a cold. The Duke explains that, in other words, this room is actually the most ideal prison for holding a prisoner. At this time, the main character thought that this is a very deep meaning as expected from the Duke. Maximilian says that it might be better to change the blanket to something lighter, because he thinks it would be unpleasant if she was crushed by the blanket before she turned 18. At this time, the little girl thought about what she wanted to say, that she thought it was too much, but she was holding back. When Clarissa was left alone, she thought it was a bit hectic, because she thought it would just be a room check, but he did much more than she expected. After all, they took her measurements for clothes, and checked her health, and prescribed her to take various vitamins, and the like. The main character thought that she was really happy, because the Duchess Rosalia, and even the Duke, were all so kind, and she thought that it was perfect because she would become the best 18-year-old girl in this world. The young lady understands that in order to justify the trust of everyone who treated her warmly, she will have to not create any problems. The girl poured out stones, and then asked if they would help her. All these stones came together and created Softie. Softie asks what she can do for her. The little girl says that she thinks there are a lot of special stones in this mansion, and then asks if Softie can ask them about Sheridan. Stone asks why she wants this. She replies that she thinks Sheridan is getting better and better. Softie asks the girl if she is still watching the festival. The surprised little girl asks where she was. The girlfriend replies that she was doing what she asked for a couple of days ago, and she was asking about the stone in the mansion. Clarissa wonders if she came here after fulfilling her request, and then thanked her. Softie asks the girl if she is lonely when she leaves her alone like that, and then says that he would like her to go to this festival too. The main character says that it is a holiday in honor of the victory over the Grazikai, and she cannot go there because she believes that if she were there, no one would be happy about it. The young lady says that she is still a little jealous because she has never been to a festival or banquet before. Softie asks that if she wants, she will dance with her. Having heard this, the girl does not understand how she is so small, but the stone says that if she does not want, then it is okay. Softie to dance with her? The little girl took the stone in her hands and offered to dance together, and then they started to spin. Softie said that she felt dizzy. At this point, the Duchess smiled, and the man insists that it is true. She says that he will step away for a while, and asks her to excuse him, and then says that he will listen to the story next time. The man says that as he heard the Duchess is cold as ice, and the gentleman heard these rumors. When the lady went out onto the balcony, she thought that she barely escaped, because, as expected, such a title does not suit her, and she thinks that this business is too difficult for her. The Duchess thought that she wanted to escape so much, and did not understand why it was so cold outside. At this time, the Duke comes up to her and gives her a cape, and says that it is still cool today. When the girl saw him, she was surprised, and he said that if she was unwell, she could leave first. She objects and says that she just drank a little and was going to return soon. The gentleman asks if this is so, and then looks at her. The lady asks what brought him here, and also asks if he wants to tell her something. The Duke looked at the girl, and then apologized for disturbing her. He turned around to leave, and the girl asked him to wait a second. The Duchess says that she heard that he took care of the child, and then thanks him. She bows and says that she sincerely apologizes for not being able to carry out the Duke's order because she believes that even her maid made a big mistake. The lady claims that it is all her responsibility. He claims that it is not her fault and therefore suggests that she raise her head. The Duke says that the maid will be dealt with according to the established laws. The girl thanked him, and the gentleman thought that he had not come for this, because he believed that he should find out what kind of report it was. After the maid's arrest, her belongings were searched, and suspicious letters were found. The Duke's affairs were not recorded, but it was a report detailing every step of the Duchess. Maximilian thought that he should ask her what kind of report it was. The girl asks if he could accidentally make it so that the Count's family would not find out about this incident, and she explains that she is not asking him to hide it for the rest of his life, because she thinks it would be okay if it was only for a short time. The Duchess says that she thinks that asking for something like that is too much and then apologizes, and at that time, she thinks that she has no conscience because the Duke would never grant such a request. Maximilian agrees and says that it is only temporary, and then says that at some point he has to inform them because it is illegal, and he is sure that everything will be fine with her. Hearing this, the girl thanked him and then smiled. The Duke walking down the corridor was not the same as usual, and the surprised Quentin asks what is wrong with him and why he is like this. He answers that everything is fine and suggests not to worry. Suddenly, the assistant saw the door slightly open and asked if this was the room of the child from Grezekai, and also wondered why the door was open at such a late hour. The Duke thought that it was an uninvited guest, and when he entered the room, he saw a girl lying on the floor. Quentin ran up to the baby and then picked her up and said that she was just sleeping. Maximilian asks in surprise what is going on. The assistant claims that nothing, and it seems that the girl fell asleep while playing with the stones, and then he put her to bed. The assistant says that the child must have been bored after several days in the room, and the gentleman asks in surprise if a child can be bored, and he says that a lot of time has passed since she was here, and therefore he thinks that she must be recuperating. Quentin claims that she has definitely recovered because when children wake up, they are full of energy. The Duke asks if this means that the child also needs outdoor activities. He answers that everything is correct. The next day, Rebecca put a warm coat on the girl and said that now they can go outside. Hearing this, the girl was happy. And when the Duke saw her, he kept quiet about Quentin, thought that she had a round face and she was a cutie and a real snow bunny. He understood that now was not the time to be touched. Quentin asks why they had this suit made for them, because he thinks they should be grateful to the tailors who had to come here. Clarissa thanks the gentleman for giving her a warm prison uniform. He says that it is good that the clothes are ready and informs that starting today, she can do active outdoor activities. The Duke says all prisoners must maintain their physical and mental health by engaging in outdoor activities for a certain amount of time, and she is no exception. The little girl says that from now on she will go outside every day and make her body stronger, and then asks what exactly she should study. At this time, the gentleman thought that he had never done anything except fencing, and then he turns to the assistant, and he says that when he was little, he collected beetles and frogs. Maximilian reminds him that it is winter now, and Quentin thinks for a moment and says that when it snows, children make snowmen, and remembers that they competed to see who would build the biggest one. Quentin offers the girl to participate in such a competition and build a snowman on behalf of their mansion. Hearing this, she agreed and thought that she would be the main one from the castle, and could not believe that she could do something for the mansion. The little lady claims that she will work hard for the Duke's honor. He turns to Gasoline and asks to take her to the courtyard. At this time, the knight remembered the Duke's words, that she would be treated as a sinner no matter what, and thought that the master was also very indifferent to such a small child. Benson tells her to stop, and the girl asks in surprise why he stopped her. The knight tells her to be careful on the stairs so as not to fall, and then offers to carry her. The young lady thanks him for his concern and then states that she will come down herself. When the girl went outside, she saw that the entire yard was snow white, and when she took a few steps, she realized that traces remained and considered this incredible. Clarissa says with delight that it is very fun. And at that time, she thought that it was not the time to play because the first task that the Duke gave her had to be completed. The main character believes that on behalf of the mansion, she has to make the biggest and coolest snowman. However, she does not understand what a snowman is because she was from warmer regions and she has never seen snow, and this is the first time for her. The girl does not understand what she needs to do and thinks that she should first ask the guards, but she does not know who to ask. She walked up to the stones and then greeted them and asked how they were doing. The stone asked if she was the prisoner the guys from the inner wall were talking about. Suddenly, the stone turned into a little man, and the girl asked in surprise if he knew who she was, because she thought that today they met for the first time. The man says that after her arrival, his minions made a noise, and then asks how he cannot know. He says that she was not mistaken because they are guards of the outer wall and are different from them, and claims that there is no mercy for the prisoners. The guard says that if she even thinks about trying to escape, and at that moment the girl interrupts him and asks what escape he is talking about. She claims that she would never and under no circumstances do such a terrible thing. The man says that in that case, if she doesn't want to run away from there, then he wonders why she called him. Clarissa asks if he by any chance doesn't know how to make a snowman. He asks in surprise if that's what he came to her for. The main character explains that she needs to make a snowman for the mansion, and then says that she has never done it before. She asks if maybe he doesn't know how either. Hearing this, the man screams and tells her not to compare him to her, and then asks how he cannot do this, and the girl asks him to teach her. The guard objects and says that she will help the captive, and the little girl asks him to tell her how to do it. He claims that she is very noisy and left him no choice and does not understand what to do. The guard waved his hand, and with the help of magic, the bell began to glow. He asks the girl if she is surprised, and then offers to show the power of the Outer Wall Legion. The man says that he is the guardian of the mansion, and she, since the captive is freely roaming around the area, orders the bell to be immediately rung twice. The main character was surprised and didn't understand if it usually sounded like that, because it seemed to her that there would be a lot of noise. At this time, the castle guards do not understand whether the bell rang, and another knight suggests that he not pay attention because he thinks that this is probably another false alarm. And in any case, now it is pointless, and simply suggests not paying attention. The guard tells the girl to trust him and just go back. When the little girl came to her room, she asked the soft if she was sleeping. The little doll asked if she was called, and then asked what happened and suggested not to think too badly about that wall guard. Soft says that this guard faithfully guarded Sheridan for many years, and much longer than humans. It is not an exaggeration to say that they were proud of it. However, over time magic tends to fade, to such an extent that now they are not even able to ring the bell, and the fact that people consider them useless definitely weighs heavily on them. Clarissa says that she understands that it is not for her that they are going through all this, and the doll claims that it is not Clarissa's fault and asks why she asked the guard how to make a snowman. The little girl explains that the Duke asked her to do this and then tells her that she needs to put it in front of the mansion. Softy says that this is great news because she thinks that decorating the courtyard with a mansion is something because it means that the child is growing up healthy. The main character asks if she means her, and the doll asks who it could be, if not Clarice. She says that this is not an easy task for the walls of Sheridan, and therefore when she molds a magnificent snowman, the guardian of the outer wall will undoubtedly be happy too. The young lady asks if she really thinks so, and then says that then she must do everything in her power. Softy says that she will teach her how to sculpt it. The next day, Clarissa thought that she was doing everything as the software showed her, and she wondered if it should look exactly like that. After all, she had a feeling that something was missing. The main character remembers that Softy told her that the snowman needs to have hands, and that people usually use branches for this. The girl ran for dry branches, and when she found them, she accidentally saw a lady with silver hair, and thought that she was a fairy, and said with delight that she was very beautiful. The lady says she was looking for the branches, and then apologizes for stepping on them, and then says if she needs anything else. But the girl interrupts her and says, "It's okay." Clarissa remembered that Softy said that the Duchess was very beautiful, and had sparkling silver hair and blue eyes. And then she asks the lady if she is the Duchess. The little girl says that she asks for forgiveness if she disturbed her when she was going somewhere. Hearing this, the lady objects and says that she has nothing to apologize for. Benson calling her, and the Duchess said that then she would go, and asked if she could keep their meeting a secret. The little girl said that she promised, and the Duchess thanked her. Clarice tells the gentleman that she is there when she saw the Duke. She was surprised. He asks where she was, and wonders why she did not answer, although he called her for a long time. The little girl explains that she was looking for a branch to stick into the snowman, and at that time mentally apologized for the lie. The gentleman says that as soon as she finishes it, she should go inside and tell Benson to put the snowman in front of the mansion. The girl apologizes and asks the Duke if she can stay here a little longer and come back later. She says that today is actually Mr. Outerwall's day. And at this time, the main character remembered the words of her brother, that if she talks to stones, then she should not tell anyone about it, because everyone will point their fingers at her and call her not only stupid, but also crazy. And then Clarissa explains that she just wanted to explore the yard a little more, and says that she will bring them a snowman. The master tells her to return before sunset. After a few hours, the girl thought that she was sure that even the gentleman from the outer wall would be happy to see this snowman. The little girl ran up to the wall and asked Mister's advice and said that she was here to show him something. However, there was no answer, and she thought that maybe he was resting, because Softy and the inner wall sometimes sleep too. The main character doesn't understand whether she should come back next time, but she does understand that she can't wait to show them the snowman. The girl touched the wall and suddenly saw that Mr. Guardian was sleeping. He wakes up and asks what it is, and then says that it is not even a full moon yet, and asks where this powerful magic came from. Clarice says she's glad he woke up, and when he saw her, he thought she was a prisoner child, and thought it couldn't be that this little girl woke him up. The little girl says that she made a snowman, and says that the inner wall said that if she shows him the snowman, he will be happy. Hearing this, the guard screams and says that it is a stupid inner wall that simply spoke nonsense to the captive. He claims that these inner walls have always been like this, because he believes that living in a warm environment must have melted even pride, no doubt. The main character tells him not to say that, because she thinks the inner walls are trying to help her. He then suggests going inside and playing with these fools. The guardian says that he will tell her that no snowman she makes will bring him joy, and then tells her not to pour magic into him without permission, especially if she does not intend to bond with him for life. Hearing this, girl was surprised, and he at this time does not understand why she does not answer. The little girl apologizes and then says that it is time for her to go. The stone guard thought that the form was overflowing with magical power, and Softy asks why he is not asleep yet, and explains that she just looked in before going to bed, and also asks if he already has that magical power from Clarissa, and says that she has not received it yet, and therefore is jealous. The man says he can't even sleep because of her. She says he was kind to Clarissa, and then asks if he knows how happy she was today because of him. Softy claims that when he likes people, he starts acting out of character. The guardian claims that he hates people because they are so weak that they die quickly. She asks if that is why he is afraid of children. The doll says that Clarissa is truly a wonderful child, and then asks if he knows it too, because he thinks that they don't have much time left and will soon turn into ordinary stones. The guard says that this is even better than waiting for the master, who will never return. Hearing this, she suggests not to talk about what will disappear so easily, and says that she wants to live. The man says that they have lived long enough defending this mansion, and suggests that she be quieter because he saw a strange man. He thinks that this is an uninvited guest and suspicious. Softy says that now is not the time to stand aside, and he should ring the bell. He asks in surprise what she is talking about, and also wonders why he should ring the bell, because he thinks that the knights will take care of it, and he is sure. The doll asks what he is saying, and then claims that he is also a knight who must protect this mansion. The guard tells her to shut up, and then asks if she hasn't figured it out yet, and tells her that his bell is now useless, because if he rings it, he will only become a laughing stock, and he claims that he no longer wants to be an idiot for people. Softy says that maybe this time everything will be different, because Clarissa gave him her magic. The guard asks if she is serious, and also asks if she wants him to use her, and then says that it cannot be that he would work because of the magic of a little girl who is not even a master. She wonders if he is going to stand there and watch, and asks if he is ashamed as the knight of this mansion. The guard agrees with her and says that she will do it. The man says that the bell is the guardian of the outer side, and says that there are uninvited guests there, and offers to ring twice. At this time the bell lit up, and the softy says in surprise that it is wonderful. The guard thought that it was incredible to see the radiation of this light again. Quentin tells the Duke that the bell is ringing again, and reports that he heard it ringing falsely earlier today. When the bell rings, once it means that there is trouble inside the mansion 3 times, that there is trouble in the city or in the village, and twice in the yard or near the mansion. It rings when an uninvited guest appears or a prisoner escapes. The Duke says that he will go and personally check everything. Hearing this, the assistant is surprised, and then says that in any case nothing happened, and says that therefore his lordship has no need to go there. The gentleman says that he never knows what might happen, and claims that he has no need to send knights because he will check it himself and return. When the Duke left, he thought that now was the time for the patrol to guard the front gate, because he understood that if they got in or escaped, they would head to the back garden. Suddenly, Maximilian saw the uninvited guest, and does not understand why he is in such a position, and thinks that his clothes got caught on something, and it seems to him that he did not even notice him, and judging by his carelessness, he thinks that there is no need to call the knights. The Duke asks who he is, and then states that he does not know what his purpose is here. But now that he has been discovered, he cannot deny what he is planning. The gentleman recognized that it was the Duchess, and asked in surprise how she got there. At that moment, she fell, but he grabbed her. The lady apologizes and explains that she will get off right now. He suggests that she calm down, and then tells her that if she rushes too much, she will get hurt. Maximilian picked up the girl in his arms, and then carried her inside the mansion. She apologizes anxiously. The gentleman assures that everything is fine, and besides, she has already asked for forgiveness for the 10th time. He asks if he can examine her leg. The Duke says that as he thought she is all swollen, and says that first aid should be provided, and says that he will bring medicine and bandages from his room, and suggests that she wait. When the girl was left alone, she thought that she had not even noticed this door, and thought that it connected them with the Duke of the room. And after the wedding, she had never used it, and had completely forgotten about it. The Duchess thought that it would be strange if she were useful. After all, after this forced marriage, they lived like strangers for 3 years. She thinks that it is not the time to think about such things, because she does not understand how she will explain everything to the Duke when he returns. The girl understands that he clearly suspects something is wrong, but she thinks that she can't tell him the whole truth, and she thinks that she will somehow get out of it. The lady reflects that all this time Mrs. Bassey has been spying on her and passing the contents of her letters to Mr. Darrington. However, she understands that if the letters suddenly stop coming, they will consider it suspicious. Therefore, the Duchess tried to imitate Mrs. Bassey's handwriting as much as possible, but she was caught on the way back after sending it. She believes that if she keeps silent, it will seem even stranger, and understands that she needs to justify herself somehow. At this time, a gentleman entered the room, and the lady thanked him for even bringing the medicine. The Duchess says that she will do everything herself, but he objects and explains that it will not take much time, and suggests that she be patient for a little while. The lady turns to him, but he interrupts her and says that if she wants to ask for forgiveness again, she doesn't have to do it. The girl says that she feels she has to explain where she went today, and then she says that she was in the village because of a letter, because she wanted to send it to her friend in her homeland, but completely forgot the day she promised to do it, and had to leave immediately in the middle of the night. The Duchess explains that this is why she couldn't warn him. He asks if she told him about a friend from her homeland, and at that moment, the girl thought that he was checked, but she thinks that this is of course good, but her conscience torments her. Maximilian tells her to just contact him next time because he can deliver the letter, and then says that there is no need to hide anymore because he knew everything from the beginning. Having heard this, the girl was surprised and then asked what he was talking about, and at that time, she thought that he meant that she was being followed or that everything was about her. The Duchess recalls that she was told to simply pass through to Sheridan. The gentleman explained that he simply could not send his beloved daughter to this cold north, and therefore suggested that she pretend to be her and marry the Duke. The man says that in exchange, they will cure her sick mother. At this time, the girl thought that she should not tell him anything, because if he finds out that she was exposed, he will not cure her mother. She believes that she must hold out at least until her treatment is finished. The Duke claims that he knows everything about the fact that she already has a loved one, and then asks what kind of girl would want to be forced into marriage, because he himself understands that. The gentleman says that moreover she already had a loved one, and at that time the girl thought that this was a terrible misunderstanding. Maximilian says that this is why he wants to annul their marriage, and explains that he has been thinking about it for a long time, but right now it is impossible because the king and queen are watching him, and then he says that in a few years she will be free. The Duke tells her not to worry, because he will do everything so as not to harm her or her family. The gentleman says that he must leave already, and wishes her good night. At this time, the lady reflects on the fact that she could not even imagine that the Duke would have such thoughts, but she believes that it is even better for her. After all, if this marriage is successfully dissolved, then Mr. Darrington will not present anything to her, and there will be enough time for her mother to recover. The girl thought that this was what she wanted most of all, but she didn't understand why she was so sad. At this time, Bessie, sitting in the dungeon, does not understand why there is still no news from her. She knows that her mother is being held hostage, but she thinks that the girl should get her out of there because she needs to send letters. The maid thought that this girl could write, and that meant that she could send letters on her behalf. And at that moment, I realized that she would sit there all her life. Bessie saw Lord Benson, and screaming said that she wanted to tell him something, and asked him to listen to her. The knight says that this is impossible, and then says that if she wants to say something, then she should pass it on through the warden. The maid screams and tells that the Duchess is deceiving the Duke. Hearing this, Benson asks in surprise what she just said. Rosalie asks the girl if she can come in, and the little girl offers her to come in. The maid says it's time for lunch. Clarissa shows the woman the drawing, and she asks in surprise if this girl drew it, and says that it turned out very beautifully. The little girl thanked her and explained that these were her lunch friends. Hearing this, the woman was surprised. The main character thanked the maid for coming to lunch today, and then wished the boys a bon appétit, and thanked Rosalie for the food. The maid explains that it is her duty. Rosalie apologizes, and then tells the Duke that children should eat with adults to learn proper posture and manner of speech, and therefore she believes that Clarissa needs adults who will be an example for her. The Duke asks if ethics lessons are necessary. Then it is possible to hire a tutor, and therefore does not think that there is a need for his presence. The maid shows the master the drawing and offers to look at it, and then explains that today the little girl sat at the table with this drawing and said that these are her dinner friends. Rosalie says that if this continues, it will harm her mental health, and in order for her to grow up a healthy child, and at this time the assistant interrupts her. Quentin says that if the Duke can't, he wonders if he can go instead. He says that if the gentleman doesn't mind, he can keep Clarissa company. After all, they already know each other. The maid says that would be great, and then asks if he has a lady to accompany him. She shows him a drawing and says that it shows a couple, and thinks it would be better to come with a lady. Rosalie asks if he doesn't have any girlfriends. Quentin explains that he doesn't have anyone suitable because he's only been studying since childhood. And after coming to this house, all he does is work around the clock, and it takes time to create a relationship. The next evening, Maximilian tells the Duchess that they have not yet met each other. He explains that the Duchess of Sheridan is his wife, and this girl is Clarissa. The little girl greeted the lady and said that it was an honor to meet her, and the lady said that she was also glad to meet them. And then she pointed her finger and said that the fact that they already knew each other was a secret. The Duke offers to sit down and begin their meal. At this time, the main character thought that she could not believe that she would eat with the Duke and Duchess. And at this time, she was very excited, but sure that it would be very fun. Sitting at dinner, the girl does not understand why the atmosphere is so gloomy, but thinks that maybe it should be like that. And because of the excitement, she cannot even distinguish the taste of food. At this time, Benson entered the room, and when he saw the Duchess, he remembered that the maid said that she was a fake. He asks Bessie what kind of nonsense she is talking, but she assures that it is hard to believe, but it is true. And then she says that she is a fake that was secretly slipped to her by Mr. Darrington, and she came with her for observation. The maid explains that because of her guilt towards the Duke, she tried to tell him everything, but this girl caught her and demanded to lock her up, and therefore asks to believe her because she considers it so unfair. The guy asks in surprise how this is possible, and she says that it seems to her that the Duke also noticed something because recently he began to avoid her, and therefore asks to watch them carefully because she believes that he will definitely feel something strange. Benson doesn't understand why he didn't notice anything until now, and he wonders if they've always had such a cold relationship. He doesn't understand how they can eat together and never look at each other. The Lord thought that Clarissa was also uncomfortable because of this. The Duchess asks the little girl if everything is okay, and then tells her that some vegetables with a strong smell have been added to the dish, and that is why she is worried that because of this, she cannot eat it. The girl objects and says that she can eat it, and the lady says that if she doesn't want to, then she shouldn't force herself. Clarissa says that everything is good and very tasty, and then suggests watching her eat. She says that she also likes meat, but she just loves corn and potatoes. The Duchess says that she likes it too, and thinks that they are alike. The little girl asks what she likes that is not food. She answers that it is embroidery and a letter, and then says that nothing else comes to mind, and that is why she is a little embarrassed. The girl asks what about the Duke, and also wonders if she likes him. Hearing this, the lady was surprised. Clarissa asks if she said something wrong, and then wonders if spouses should not love each other. The lady says that she is right, and of course, she likes the Duke very much. The little girl tells the Duke that the lady said she likes him, and then asks if he likes her. He explains that during the meal, one should focus on the food, and at that time he remembered that the maid said that talking during the meal has a good effect on the formation of values in the child. Maximilian says that he likes the Duchess too. The lady was surprised to hear this, and Benson was surprised too. The Duke asks if he has any problems. Benson replies that he has no problems, and then explains that he is simply a role model for all spouses and smiles. At this time, the knight does not understand who said that they have a bad relationship, and does not understand what he was thinking at all, and considers himself a fool. Clarissa was the first to go to her room, and the Duchess thought that she had somehow managed to avoid disaster. The Duke thanks her for her support during dinner, and then says that she must have been very surprised. The lady replies that she was not at all, because Rosalie had told her everything, and then says that she also wanted to help with something. At this time, the lady does not understand why she is so uncomfortable, and thinks that it is all because this is their first meeting. After that day, she understands that it is logical that they will be awkward, because they also had to say something like that. The Duchess thinks that the Duke has not noticed this, and then apologizes and asks if she can go, as she still has things to do. The man asks if she is going to write another letter, and he tells her that the person she sent the letter to that night, and then apologizes and asks her to forget what he said. The Duchess thought that so much time had passed, and there were many thoughts in her head, and she decided to take a walk and ended up returning quite late. The ladies do not understand why the Duke said that he is still worried about that incident. Suddenly, the grandfather saw the letter and thought that it was not there before she left. This letter was written by the Duke, and he asked for forgiveness for what happened, because he did not want to accuse her of anything, because he believes that she has every right to communicate with whomever she wants. The Duchess thought that it seemed that he was really interested in her answer, and felt that she should answer him, since it was not a love letter, and she was not in a position to share her heart with anyone. The lady writes that she wishes to clarify this misunderstanding. Standing at the door, the Duchess thought about what to write. She wrote it, but did not understand how to give it. She thought that it might seem strange to him that she decided to answer this, but she believes that even if so, she cannot allow this misunderstanding to remain with them forever. The girl thinks that this way, she will simply solve the problem with the misunderstanding, and that's it. And then she knocks on the door and asks if the Duke is in. The lady does not understand whether it is normal that she let her hair down, and thinks that she should have combed it better, but at that time she realized that she was in a nightgown, and thinks that this is unacceptable. The Duchess saw the door opening, and then screaming. She offered not to open it. She extended her hand and said that she simply wanted to give him a letter. Maximilian says that he did not expect that she would give it to him, and the girl says that even if it is just a contract marriage, she cannot allow such a misunderstanding between them. The man apologizes for his selfishness, and then says that he assumed that she had someone for whom her heart yearned, even 3 years ago, at the moment when she came to him. The Duke explains that he thought she was yearning for someone, and therefore believes that he was too hasty in his judgments. The girl thought that if 3 years ago, then she could understand why he thought so. And then she said that the most precious thing in her life was her mother, who protected her very much and loved her as no one else could. And this love was so strong that it simply couldn't be stronger. And at this time, the lady does not understand what she is talking about, because she thinks that he is not interested in all these details. The gentleman says that he believes that her mother noticed this on her part, that she also loves her very much. Hearing this, the Duchess thought that he was a wonderful person, and perhaps too straightforward at times, but very sensitive, and his manners and warmth amazed her. The silver-haired lady remembered the words of this little girl, and thought that she was right. And last night, the gentleman thought that he was very tired, and suddenly he saw a letter in which it was written that the Duchess sincerely thanked him for listening to her yesterday. The lady writes that if it suits him, then they can continue to write letters to each other, and she will also understand if he refuses. At this time, the guy thought that it was good that he wrote first, because he thinks that perhaps it was just his imagination that they were getting closer. The knight turns to the master and asks for forgiveness, and then says that no matter what he says, he will not answer. Maximilian claims that everything is fine, and then asks what is the matter. Benson shows him the vacation application. Seeing this, the gentleman is surprised and asks why so suddenly, and then says that it is already the end of the year. The guy explains that he actually forgot about it too, because he knows that most of the applicants are married and probably want to spend the end of the year with their wives. The Duke says he will look at them tomorrow and offers to pass them on to Quentin and then thank him for notifying him. Benson thought that he had been serving the Duke for many years, but he saw his smile for the first time. At this time, the main character does not understand why the Duke would call her so suddenly, and she thought that she had brushed her teeth, washed her hands, even eaten vegetables, and still does not understand why she could be scolded. The gentleman invites the girl to come in and then says that they are meeting for the first time since dinner and asks how she is doing. The little girl screams and says that she brushed her teeth. Well, her hands were nice, and she even ate vegetables. He says that she is a good girl and says that there is nothing important and that he just called her to tell her that at the end of the year she will have to go to the North Face. Clarissa was surprised to hear this, and he explains that at the end of each year, Sheridan holds a festival with fireworks on the north wall to cheer up the people living in such a dry place and inspire them for a bright future. And so he wanted to ask if she would go. The girl asks in surprise if she can join in too. Maximilian replies that not only he, but almost all the residents of the mansion will be empty, and therefore it would be nice to go together. But if she doesn't want to, he won't force her. Clarissa says that if it doesn't bother him, she would like to go too. And the gentleman says that it's no problem, and thanks her. Hearing this, the main character does not understand why he is thanking her. Assistant Quentin enthusiastically reports that he will finally see the New Year's fireworks festival. After all, he doesn't understand who would have thought that their Duke is such a romantic and would offer him to go first. He thinks that even in a dream, you won't see something like this, because he thought that this time he would just sit and work. Maximilian tells him to calm down and then explains that they are not just going to have fun. The assistant says that due to a recent request from the wizard community, they will be going to the North Wall and asks if that is true. Quentin says he was quite surprised when they received a request for permission to investigate the case of the fallen golem from the wizards. The Duke says that too much time has passed to begin an investigation, and 10 years ago, monsters penetrated the northern walls, and the loss of both the senior mage and the king was a truly tragic event. The master says that due to the death of the wizard, master of golems, the colossal golem fell. 2 corpses were buried under the golem, which gave it the name Fallen Golem. After this incident, the relationship between the magicians and the royal family worsened. The assistant asks if it is possible to give permission for an investigation in this case, because he believes that it is necessary to be more careful in relation to the royal family, and then asks if it is possible to be sure that the investigation will be carried out properly. Maximilian says that the remains of a golem cannot be touched unless he is a master, but he believes that there is still hope, because they say that the son of the deceased senior magician is doing this research, and his name is Sinet. Although this guy is not a golem master, like his late father, despite being 11 years old, he was in the top 5 wizards. The master says that his plan is to go to the North Wall and meet him. At this time, the man looked at the plate full of food and said that he had not eaten again, and he was wondering if everything would be okay, because he understood that they could not starve him, but he himself refused to eat. Mr. Nelson says that then they will all thank him for saving them the dirty work by dying himself, and then claims that he dared to study the golem himself and take all the laurels for himself. He wonders how he is not ashamed to live after killing his own mother. Nelson says that they will leave everything as is and go, because he understands that they need to hurry to the North Face. At this time, the boy remembers what the old man told him, that he should go north and investigate the fallen golem, because he knew that only he could find what was hidden inside it. Sinet asked his mentor for forgiveness, and said that he could not fulfill his last request because he believed that a monster like him had no right to do so, and then threw down his magic stone. At this time, Softy asks the girl if she really wants to go to the North Face. She replies that she will see fireworks for the first time and cannot believe that she will travel, and therefore is very excited. The girl says that in the book she read it is written that if you go to a new place, you can find new friends, and therefore she thinks that she will be very happy to make friends with someone there. Benson tells Mrs. Clarissa that he is not there yet, and seeing the north wall in Sheridan, the girl was surprised because it was very beautiful there, and also it was all snow white. The knight suggests that the lady be careful because the road is slippery, and therefore offers to hold his hand. Maximilian gives his hand to the Duchess. She thanks him. The girl saw this and says that they have a very wonderful relationship, and the gentleman suggests that they quickly go inside. The man says that this is her room for the duration of her stay there, and then says that it is of course inferior to the room in the castle, but will not cause discomfort. He asks if she remembers the precautions for the duration of her stay there. Clarissa says that she should not catch a cold and wear only warm clothes outside, and that she can rest in the fresh air, but she can't climb the wall, and Benson should always accompany her. The Duke says he has an appointment, and so he will go first. The little girl asks why so early, and he asks if she has any problems. She says everything is fine, and then says that they just got here, and before that, they just worked all the time. The girl says that it seems to her that the Duke is very tired, and then she looked at him and apologized for saying too much. He assures that everything is fine and suggests that she rest. When Clarissa was left alone, she thought that she was such a fool because she couldn't say such presumptuous things to the Duke, and he probably thought that she was crazy. The little girl remembered that she put the softy in the bag and then takes it out and apologizes because she thinks that she must have been very stuffy. Softy says that it was very noisy, and she doesn't understand why she took this stone with her little lady. Says that she also took this stone on the way. The man says that they need to check the wheels, and therefore suggests taking a short break. At this time, the main character received permission and plays in the area. After walking a bit, she realized that there were almost no stones there, and she was very sorry. But suddenly she saw one and thought that it was very beautiful. Clarissa explains that she took it because she thought it was unusual. Then she asks, "What do you mean, noisy?" The rock turns to the girl and asks if she can hear him. The little girl asks in surprise if he is a talking rock. He says it is a relief because he thinks she can actually hear him. The stone apologizes for being so sudden and says that he has a request for her, and then says that Noah, his friend, is in great danger and that bad wizards have taken him prisoner and locked him in a cart. Pebble says that Noah hasn't eaten or drunk anything for several days and thinks that if he is left like this, he will simply die, and so he asks her to save Noah. At this time, the gentleman remembered the girl's words and thought about who should worry about whom, and he wondered if she knew anything about his situation. However, if you think about it, she thinks that the little girl has always been like this, and even knows that she should die at 18. And she laughs so loudly as if she has no worries. Maximilian thought that he was really tired, and then he comes in, and a man meets him and says that they were waiting for the master. The magician says his name is Alfie Nelson, and he thanks the Duke for responding to the request for research. The young gentleman says that he also has something he would like to find, and therefore considers it a two-way street, and then says that he does not see anything in it. Hearing this, the magician thought that, as expected, he was not so simple, and then said that he was just about to say that he did not show up. The Duke asks what he means by "he didn't show up," and then says that he was definitely notified that Noah Sineh would be participating in the investigation. Alfie explains that because of what happened to Yona, as his mentor, this whole situation changed a little, and as he probably knows, the mentor died, and that became the reason why he had to take responsibility for this research. The magician says that no matter how good Noah is, he is still a child, and he believes that such an important task should be taken on by an adult, and therefore believes that for the master this will also be the safest option, and therefore he believes that he should not worry, and suggests that they begin their meeting. Maximilian says that in that case, he cannot give his consent. The pebble tells the girl that Noah is locked in a cart, and therefore asks to get him out of there. At this time she thought that she does not know who this guy is, but she thinks that since she is asked so, and for the pebble, it seems like a very precious friend. The girl suggests waiting for her because she will definitely pull Noah out. The main character does not understand how to get there because she does not even know where the cart is. Benson asks the little girl in surprise what she is doing near the door. The girl is surprised when she sees him, and he says that she looks worried and asks if he can help her somehow. At this time, the lady does not understand what to do and thinks that it might be worth telling him everything honestly and asking for help. However, she understands that in this case, she will have to admit that she talks to stones. Clarissa replies that it is an active holiday in the fresh air, and then she says that she wants to see the carriage in which the wizards arrived because she saw in the book that it can fly. The man asks if she just wants to look at the wizard's carriage, and at that moment he thinks that they don't fly, and says that unfortunately he's not sure if it's possible to do that now because the wizards are at a meeting. The knight thinks that it is worth going to them after finishing. The girl asks if it is possible to go right now and looks at the gentleman very sweetly. He says that he thinks everything is fine if they do it quickly, and then offers to follow him. The man shows the girl the wizard's carriage, and then says that it looks nothing special. At this time, the main character looked at the guards and thought that these were knights who guarded the castle wall, and they were very different from the Duke's knights because they looked scary. Suddenly, Clarissa saw the knight walking towards her, and she didn't understand why he was doing this. She thought that maybe she did something wrong, and then she grabbed the man by the cloak and apologized. The guard asks where her manners are, because it is clear that she is from a noble family. The guard asks Benson if the Duke had an adult daughter, and he wonders if that is possible, and then says that the child is his prisoner and suggests not to get too close. The man asks if this is a prisoner living in the Duke's house, then could she be from the Grezikai family? And then he says that he doesn't know what kind of problems adults have, and thinks that being so nice is really a big crime. The gentleman says that if cuteness is a crime, then she should sit for life. Benson tells her not to pay attention to them. At this time, the main character thought that they were not as scary as she thought, and at this time the pebble asks her to hurry up and says that Noah is in a wooden cart and he has a bad feeling. Clarissa ran quickly, and the knight asked in surprise where she was going. The girl ran up to the cart and asked if it was really her. The stone replied that there could be no mistake. The main character climbed onto the cart and told Benson to look there because there was an unconscious child there. At this point, the Duke claims that he cannot give his consent and explains that he is going to do so, but only if Noah leads the investigation process. He says that if he does not, they should start negotiations from the beginning. The magician claims that Noah is still not ready, because after the sudden loss of his mentor, he still cannot recover. At this time, Benson tells the Duke that he has an urgent message. The gentleman invites him in, and the man apologizes because he thinks it is really important and whispers in his ear. The gentleman asks if this is true, and the knight claims that he personally checked everything. Maximilian screams and says that then they should listen to an explanation of why Noah, who allegedly did not arrive at the meeting, was locked in the cart. At this point, the boy was taken into the room and then warmed up. However, he was still unconscious and so was put to bed. Clarissa asks if he is in pain and then says that she doesn't see any wounds. The Duchess asks if she is saying that he was locked in the carriage for several days in a row, and then says that if that is true, he must be very exhausted. The lady thinks that the problem is that they can't do anything now. The little girl says that this won't work and thinks that if he takes off the mask, it will be more comfortable for him. But suddenly the Duchess stops her and suggests that she wait, since she believes that Clarissa cannot do this without receiving permission. When the girl touched the boy, he woke up and then screamed and told her to take her hands away. Clarissa apologizes and then explains that she just thought he was uncomfortable with her. At this time, the boy does not understand where he is, and he became interested in whether he was not in the cart, and then he used his magic. The Duchess tells the girl to move away because she thinks it is dangerous. Benson enters the room and, seeing the empty bed, asks what happened. The Duke asks if they are saying that Noah has disappeared. The knight explains that when they entered, there was no one in the room except the lady and Clarissa, and it seems that he might have run away frightened by the situation. The little girl says it's her fault because she touched Noah's mask. Then she says she didn't know he wouldn't like it so much. The Duchess strokes the girl's head and tells her that she shouldn't be so sad because she believes that she did it out of a desire to help him. The lady claims that Clarissa must be very scared too and suggests that she rest in her room. The Duke says that they should thoroughly search the mansion inside and out. When the little girl was alone in the room, she wondered where he could have gone. At that time, the little stone said that he felt that the boy was somewhere nearby, and he was even sure of it. Hearing this, the main character thought that there was no one in the room, and when she opened the window, she saw a guy sitting in a tree. Clarissa asks Noah if he was there the whole time, and then says that she was worried. The girl saw that the guy was going somewhere, and she asked if he was leaving again, and then asked him not to leave. And at that time she climbed out the window. But suddenly, the little girl felt that she was falling, and then she saw a guy who grabbed her. Noah tells her to be careful, and then asks what she will do if she gets hurt. At this time, Clarissa saw a man who said that Noah was a special child, and that someday a friend would definitely appear who would see his true appearance. The main character thought that this was Noah's memory. The girl shows a pebble and asks if it is his friend. She explains that she walked it on the way here, and that is why she returns it to Noah. The boy says that this stone is not his friend, and at that time the girl heard a voice that says that it is useless because Noah does not hear his voice. The guy asks if she really isn't a sorceress, and then says that when their hands touched, she saw his memory, and he thinks that an ordinary person is not capable of such a thing. The main character explains that she can't use something like magic because it was her first time doing it, and then asks if she can ask something too. Clarissa wonders if it was his grandfather in these memories, because it seemed to her that he treasured him very much. The boy explains that he is his mentor, and he is no longer in this world. And as she said, he really protected him a lot. This man was his support. Noah says that he said something unnecessary, and then suggests that she forget it. However, the main character does not understand why, since she does not know anything about him. But she is sure that Noah is very sad and lonely, and therefore believes that he should not be left alone. The boy looked at the girl and did not understand why she was coming to him, and she grabbed his hand and asked if he wanted to be her friend. Noah says he doesn't understand, and then suggests not to talk nonsense and let go of his hand. She asks if he wants to be friends with her and says it would be great to be friends. The boy says that she simply doesn't know anything about him, and then says that he is a monster, and frankly, he was going to die in the carriage she found him in. However, neither hunger nor cold defeated him, because he believes that if he were an ordinary person, he would have ended up in the next world long ago. The guy says that he came to another great realization, that the people who called him a monster were right, and the woman even forbade her child to play with him because her dad said that he was a monster, and it was true, and he told her not to go near him. Noah claims that it is better not to try to be friends with him because of pity, and if you do not want to get involved with a monster, then he will understand her. And at this time he thought that the girl will change her mind and thinks that it will be better this way since he cannot have friends. Clarissa thanks him for his honesty and then tells him that she thinks this topic is very painful for him and thanks him for opening up to her. The girl says that she also wants to share something and asks if he will listen. Sitting by the fireplace, the boy asks what she wanted to share, She says that the thing is that she is a prisoner from the Grezekai family and thinks that she probably should be dead, but she is here thanks to the Duke. The little girl says that her words will most likely sound strange, but now she feels much happier. The boy asks why she told him this. She explains that she wants to be friends with him. Then she asks how he feels about the captive and the monster, and also wonders if he wants to be friends with the captives. The guy asks what if, and so having heard this, the girl was surprised, and then asks him to think again. He tells her to do as she knows. Clarissa excitedly asks if it's true that they're friends now. He explains that he just realized that after he refused, she wouldn't leave him alone, and then tells her not to cling to him. That day, the main character and Noah were scolded, and the Duke said that it was necessary to tell them that she found Noah. Then it was decided that the boy would stay in the estate until he recovered, and they were also allowed to play. The main character thought that she had been having fun lately because she drew a lot and also played with the boy. Noah asks if she's really talking to the stone, and she, surprised, asks if he heard it at all. The guy explains that he only senses its mana. The boy understands that a magical wave passes between the girl and this red stone, and at first he assumed that she was a mage, but he thinks that it was something else. He understands that an ordinary mage simply uses mana, but he cannot connect her with the mana stone. Noah asks if anyone knows that she talks to the stone. She replies that he was the first one she told, and the boy suggests not to tell anyone else. The guy asks if she remembers how she said that she is happy now, and then says that if she doesn't want to lose her happiness, then she should keep the story with the stone a secret. The young man claims that those who possess power are alien to a quiet life, and therefore suggests not to reveal their potential. Clarissa says that she didn't quite understand what kind of power it was, and then says that she was just chatting with a rock. Hearing this, the guy says that no one should know about this under any circumstances, and then asks if she understood. At this time, the main character thought that she knew, that from the outside, she looked strange. The guy looked out the window and saw a carriage and realized that judging by everything he had arrived. The man tells the master that they made a serious mistake and asks him to apologize on behalf of the entire squad of magicians. Alistair Asto is the son of the late Yona Asto, one of the high-class magicians, and the Duke had heard about his talent and character because he is considered the strongest candidate for the position of commander. Maximilian says that he hopes that such a thing will not happen again and that their trust in them will not be undermined. Alistair thanks the gentleman for his generosity and promises that those involved in what happened will be punished accordingly. The magician says that if he doesn't mind, he would like to once again assign magicians to investigate the case this time. The Duke reports that the matter can be considered closed, and the group will be formed in the near future. Alistair says that he wanted to ask a question by the way, and as far as he knows, Noah is with them now, and asks if he is okay. Since he knows that the boy has been through a lot, he is worried about him. Maximilian explains that at the moment his life is not in danger, and they continue to monitor his well-being, and believes that he is coping well. Mag says that Noah felt mature beyond his years, and now he understands why his father was so protective of him. However, he believes that being a child did not hurt him. Alistair says that he got a little distracted because the gentleman probably still has a lot of things to do, and therefore suggests ending it here, since he believes that they have discussed all the issues. The Duke asks if he will come to Noah. The magician replies that he does not want to disturb him, and therefore will come some other time. Sitting in the cart, the magician cannot believe that Noah is completely fine, and this gives him goosebumps. Clarissa says with delight that she has a delicious cookie and offers to eat it. Well, when she entered the boy's room, she saw that he was not there. The girl asks where he went, and the maid asks if she is looking for the young gentleman who was in this room, and then says that he left in the morning with the Duke. The knight informs the master that they have arrived at the fallen golem. The boy suggests checking his condition first, and then touches the stones. He says that he feels a huge magical energy in each stone, and it is amazing that with such a level of magic, he is still asleep. The Duke says that, as expected, it will not be easy to lift him, and at that time, he looked at the guy and thought that he still seems like a child, and he does not understand how right it is to trust such a thing to a child, but he cannot say that he doubts his abilities. Maximilian understands that he is still one of the top 5 wizards, and at one time received recognition from Yona Asto. However, something worries him. Noah's mother, Adele, she was such a powerful master of golems that she became the leader of the wizards in her youth, and it is said that there was no one in the world who did not know about her. However, it was impossible to predict that such a woman would leave for another world very early. About 10 years ago, monsters invaded the northern wall, and the Silver Demon War began. They say Adele went to war pregnant, and according to survivors, shortly before the end of the war, in the middle of the night, Adele's golem collapsed on the barracks, where she and the king were. On the brink of death, she decided to save her child, and with great difficulty managed to get the baby out from under the rubble. That child was Noah. The boy says that there is no need to worry because he does not even remember his mother's face, let alone what happened, and therefore believes that he will not interfere with the research and will send him a report every month. After these words, the guy asks the gentleman if he is still worried. He answers that everything is fine, and at this time they do not understand why, but they are similar. The main character, enjoying the cookies, says that he could have said that he would leave early in the morning. After all, she wanted to eat fresh cookies together, but now they have cooled down. Noah says that she could have started eating it herself, but the girl objects and says that it tastes better together. Clarissa offers him to try, and then tells him that they were prepared by a cook without Sheridan, and that he has very tasty sweets. And then she tells him that when they come to the Duke's estate, she will show him everything, because it is even cooler there than here, and everyone is very kind. The girl says that they still need to think about what they can do together, and then she says that it is so spacious there, and it will be a lot of fun to play hide and seek. Noah says that he thinks there was a misunderstanding, and he will not go with her to the Duke's estate. Hearing this, the little girl asks, in surprise, why. He explains that he must stay to conduct research, because that is why he came here. The main character asks if they are friends now, and then says that the book said that friends will always be together. He says that they are friends, but they can't be together all the time. Clarissa says that she doesn't want to break up with him, and just wants to continue having fun. The boy asks why she suddenly started crying. She explains that it's because she's sad. Noah says that they are not parting forever. Hearing this, the girl asks what it means. The Duke turns to the boy and reminds him that he said he would send a report every month, and then asks if it would be better if he came with the report himself. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise why all of a sudden. The gentleman explains that it will be easier to communicate this way, and besides, it seems he has become closer to Clarissa. The gentleman says that if they part so easily, both she and he will be sad. Noah tells the girl that he will come every month, and therefore they will be able to see each other. However, this irritates him, but you can't go against the Duke. Clarissa says that it only works out once a month, and the guy says that the fact that they break up does not mean that they will immediately stop being friends, and therefore he believes that even at a distance they are friends. The girl asks if they will definitely continue to be friends. She says that when she returns to the Duke's estate, she will immediately write to him and will write every day. Benson tells Clarissa that it's time to go, and everyone is waiting for her. She says that she's already leaving, and the boy asks where she's going, and also wonders if she's really leaving today. The girl asks if he will go with her to watch the fireworks. He replies that he will not go to the fireworks festival. Hearing this, the main character is surprised, and then explains that these are New Year's fireworks, and thinks that it will be very beautiful, and he will definitely like it. Noah thanks and then says that he better go to bed early because he is very tired. He also hates crowded places. At this time, the main character was in deep shock due to 2 refusals. Benson explains that if he doesn't like it, then there's nothing he can do, and then asks maybe some other time, and in the end the girl goes alone. When the girl saw the Duchess, she apologized for coming so late, and she replied that everything was fine and asked if they could move on. At that time, the knight looked at the girl and thought that it was good that she had cheered up so quickly. The girl looked at the festival with delight, and the Duchess said that she thinks everyone is looking forward to the new year. The Duke asks how much time is left until midnight. Quentin replies that it is about 2 hours. Benson asks if he should buy some hot drinks, since he saw several stalls, and the assistant tells him that he will also go with him. The gentleman says that then they will have to look for a place to wait for them. Suddenly, the girl heard the boy calling his mother because he saw a free place, and he suggested that she go there quickly. The woman calls him a scoundrel and then reminds him that she said it was dangerous to run like that, and suggests that he take his mother's hand so as not to fall. The Duchess tells the girl that they still have a lot of time, and therefore suggests that they sit down and wait, and points to a free bench. However, the lady does not understand where the girl is looking, and when she looked in the other direction, she saw a happy boy who was walking with his parents. The Duchess says that there are more people than she thought and believes that if they lose each other, there will be trouble, and offers the girl to take her hand. The Duke says that he understands that this creates problems, but Clarissa takes his hand too, and they walk together. At this time, the little girl thought that she had an incredible feeling, and she was very worried because her heart was beating so wildly. The main character remembers that during the Grezke's fireworks days, she was afraid and hid, but now she is really looking forward to them. The Duchess turns to the baby and will be hers. She does not understand what to do because the girl fell asleep because it was difficult for her to wait until midnight. The lady says that the fireworks will start soon, and the Duke says that they need to go to another place, and therefore asks to give him the child. He took the girl in his arms and says that they will go like this. The lady says that it will be hard to carry her for a long time. He replies that she is light and everything is fine. The Duchess looked at the Duke, who was holding the girl, and thought that it was like a father and daughter. And at that moment, she blushed because she realized that if he was the father, then it turned out that she was her mother, and she did not understand why she had such thoughts. After all, she thought that she was behaving like a fool. The lady thought that realizing her feelings for the Duke did not change anything because she understood that she was still not a real duchess. The woman remembers that he said that in a few years, he would definitely give her freedom, and she believes that such a life will soon come to an end. And perhaps today, they are celebrating the new year together for the last time. The Duchess looked at the gentleman, and she wondered how long he had been looking at her. The Duke calls her his wife and says he has something he wants to tell her. She asks him in surprise what he wants to say, and he says he will tell her later, and then turns to Clarissa and says he knows she is awake. The Duchess asks the girl when she woke up, and at that time, the little girl thought that the correct answer would be from the beginning of the fireworks, and then pretended to be asleep. The girl apologizes and then says that she thought they were discussing something important. The gentleman objects and says that it was not at all. And at that time the lady thought that it meant nothing like what she expected. Clarissa looked at them and thought that there was a strange atmosphere between them, and thought that it was because she had interfered in the conversation. And she also didn't understand how to make their relationship better. The little girl suggests that they hold hands, and the Duke asks in surprise why this is so. The girl replies that they themselves said that they should hold hands because there are a lot of people, and it is easy to get lost, and therefore she believes that they should hold hands. The Duchess says that they are already adults, and therefore thinks that everything will be fine, and then asks if she wants to hold hands, the three of them like last time. Hearing this, the main character thought that everything was wrong, and that it was not she, but they who should hold hands. The girl says that the Duchess is too light, and therefore if the wind blows, she can fly away, and then she claims that his lordship should take her hand. The gentleman wondered if she had understood everything, and thought that she knew them as loving spouses, but he thought that it looked strange. He said that nothing could be done, and then asked the lady if she would mind if they held hands for a while. The Duchess agrees, and at that time she thought that she doesn't know what to do, because he's just holding her hand, and her heart is ready to burst. And the Duke looks as usual, and she just looks like an idiot who is worried for some unknown reason. When the main character saw the boy, she asked if she could really take this red stone. He replied that, of course she could, since he couldn't communicate with it, and thought that he would be better off with her. Clarissa says that she wants to give him something too. He claims that there is no need for that, since he did not give it to her to get anything. The girl asks him to wait, and then asks him to turn his back. A few minutes later, she says it's ready, and he asks in surprise if she tied his hair. The little girl says that this is a sign of their friendship, and therefore asks not to lose it before they meet, and to be sure to wear it. The Duchess reports that Clarissa said goodbye to Noah. Then she asks the girl what's wrong with her hair, and suggests that she sit down because she will tie it up. The girl says that she actually gave one ribbon to Noah as a sign of their friendship. The lady says that she is glad that she has a dear friend, and then says that she is done, and asks the girl if she likes her new hairstyle. She says that it is very beautiful, and thinks that she has hair like a princess. The main character asks the lady how she learned to braid so beautifully, and also wonders if she trained a lot. She answers that she often braided her friend's hair, and then says that if she liked it, she can braid her hair more often. At this time, a woman came to the estate and said that it was good that they arrived safely, because she had arrived to meet with Duchess Sheridan. The guards say that they were not informed about the guests and offer to introduce themselves. The lady says she is a friend of Duchess of Acela, Sheridan, Brielle Woods. At this time the Duchess dozed off, and then woke up and asked how long it would be to go, but suddenly she realized that the gentleman had been looking at her all this time. The Duke says that she can sleep a little longer since they are still far away, but the lady claims that everything is fine, and she has slept well. The Duchess looked at the guy and thought that he had been busy with paperwork the whole way, and thought that probably a little work had accumulated during his departure. And he understood that when he returned, it would be difficult to see the Duke. The gentleman asks his wife if she is busy tomorrow. She asks if he wants to assign her something. The Duke explains that a visit to the city center is planned for tomorrow morning, as it is New Year's Eve. And now that the war is over, it might inspire the townspeople, and so he would like her to go with him. Maximilian explains that he thought about going, but he thinks that it would be better if the spouses came, because people would like to see them there more. She says that she will go because she is his wife. And at that time, the Duchess thought that she couldn't wait to go to the city with her husband. When they returned to the estate, Clarissa told the maid that it was time for her to go to bed. And the butler informed the master that during their absence, 2 days ago, a guest had arrived who introduced herself as a friend of the Duchess, and the man explains that she arrived without an invitation, and they wanted to send her away, but the weather suddenly turned bad, so they took her to a separate building. Brielle comes to them and asks how to live, and then hugs the Duchess and says that she missed her. The lady asks why so suddenly, and the guest explains that she has not seen her friend for a long time and missed her, and asks if this man is Duke Sheridan. The girl asks for forgiveness and then says that her name is Brielle, and she is an old friend of Acela, and she says that she is sorry that she showed up without warning because she was abroad and only found out that Acela got married. Brielle says her friend married such a wonderful man and didn't say a word to her. The Duchess suggests that they talk in private because she believes they have something to discuss. When they entered the main room, the guest said that this room was better than she thought because the appearance of the estate made her worried. Acela asks what is happening and what she is planning. The Duchess remembers that when she was little, the maid told the mistress that the girl's name was Brielle Woods and that she would be her friend. And then she explains that this is the daughter of the new maid, and she is smart for her age and thinks that she will like it. Acela asks the maid if she thinks she'll like it this time, and then suggests she try. She picks up a chair and throws it at the girl. Daughter suffered a lot from this mistress because she was a very cruel person. When Brielle heard her talking to her father about how she would have to go to a place like Sheridan, but her father reassured her that they could not resist the emperor's decree. Acela screams and says that she would rather die than go there. And when she sees the maid's daughter, she says that a good idea has come to her mind. At this time, the lady tells the mistress that she went to study abroad and left everything behind, as if she had run away, and then asks why she appeared now. The lady asks for forgiveness for being too rude to the pig and forcibly sending her here and now showing up so shamelessly. After all, she understands that she is very offended by her. At this time, the girl does not understand whether this is the lady she knew, and she became interested in how in just a few years a person could change so much because she does not know what happened to her abroad. The lady explains that in a strange, unfamiliar country, she thought a lot about her and believes that she has been guilty before her since childhood, since she is the only one who was next to her. Acela claims that she will understand if she cannot forgive her, and she just wanted to meet and apologize before it was too late. Brielle offers the lady a handkerchief to wipe away her tears, and then says that when she first got here, she really blamed her for everything, because it was so hard for her that she wanted to run away. The lady says that a lot of fun has happened in the last few months, and so everything is fine now, and then thanks the lady for apologizing, and suggests that she rest a little, as she will order the guest room in the main building to be prepared. Acela grabs the girl's hand, and then asks if it's time for them to stop. She says that she's been thinking a lot about what would happen if she were discovered to be a fake. After all, she thinks that then not only she, but also Earl Darrington would get into trouble. The Duchess says that this is a deception of the king and the Duke, and therefore she wants to fix everything before it gets worse, and then offers to reveal the truth and tell the Duke, and then ask for forgiveness. Brielle suggests that the lady wait because it is too sudden. The Duchess says that she understands her confusion, but for her, it is also a difficult decision, but she believes that they cannot hide it forever, and then asks if she is worried about her mother. The lady says that she will explain everything to her father, and he will continue the treatment, and then, surprised, she asks if she really wants to remain a duchess. The girl objects and says that not at all because she wouldn't dare, and she tells the guest that she is so kind-hearted, and therefore thinks that it is impossible, and therefore she suggests thinking carefully because, who knows, maybe this is the last chance to tell the truth. Acela tells the maid that Brielle has changed a lot, and before she would just answer yes to everything she said, and then she asks if it was because she was pretending to be her all this time and thought she was the real Duchess, and the maid claims that as it may, she is Mrs. Acela. Hearing this, the Duchess claims that it is, of course, time for her to return to her place, because she believes that in any case this scoundrel will take all the blame on herself. The Duchess says with a shriek that the sandwich smells absolutely disgusting, and then asks what is in it. The maid, surprised, says that this is strange because she definitely asked for everything smelly to be removed, and then says that she will replace it immediately. The lady throws this food at her and then asks if the amount has gone, because she thinks that if someone finds out that she has toxicosis, and then asks if she will be responsible for it. The Duchess says that she is in a bad mood, and therefore tells the maid to get lost immediately. She grabs her stomach and asks how this could happen to her, and claims that she must take the Duchess's place as soon as possible. The next morning, the main character says that she was so tired from the journey that she slept late today because she believes that prisoners must follow the regime and therefore must get up early tomorrow. When the girl saw the softie, she asked what had happened to her. She asked Clarissa to help the lady, and then she said that the Duchess was pretending to be someone else, and that the one who was supposed to be the Duke's wife suddenly arrived and said that she wanted to take that place. Softy says, "That's exactly it, and no one should know." Clarissa says that she understands, and then asks if that means the current Duchess is a fake. The doll screams and says that their Duchess is not a fake, because as soon as she arrived at the mansion, she went through hard times but still did everything in her power, and she always saw her efforts. The doll says that the fake wants to deceive the lady into being a criminal and calls her a nasty human being. The girl says that the inner wall is right, and then says that she will do everything possible to help the Duchess. Clarice asks the doll where to start. She replies that the lady wants to tell the truth to the Duke to avoid this. She came up with the idea that only a girl can do this. In the morning, the Duchess thought that today, she and the Duke had to go to the village, and she believed that perhaps this was the last chance to reveal the whole truth, and she had to tell everything today. Suddenly, the little girl turns to the Duchess and says that she was waiting for her, and when the Duke came, he said that Clarissa would be with them today, and then apologized for not warning her. The little girl explains that she also wants to go to the village, and that is why she asked to go with them. After all, she has never been to the village, and therefore will not disturb them. Brielle claims that she will not interfere with them in any way, and therefore is very glad that the girl will be with them. The lady watching the girl thought that there was nothing she could do now, since she could not spoil this atmosphere. When they returned from the village, the girl thought about what she couldn't say because of Clarissa, but now she knocked on the master's door, and at that time, the little girl entered her room. The lady asks the girl in surprise what brought her to this hour. She replies that she had a nightmare and was scared, and then asks if she can sing her a lullaby. The lady suggests that she come. Brielle doesn't understand why she has the feeling that every time she's about to tell the Duke, Clarissa intervenes. However, she thinks that these are just excuses. The main character prevented the lady from telling the Duke the truth every time, and the doll praised the girl because she thought she was doing a good job, and also called her a genius because she did not let the Duke and Duchess be alone. Softy asks if she will go to the mistress again tonight. The girl answers that she will come to her to read a book, and then looks at the clock and thinks that it is time. The doll says that it seems that she has little magical powers, and therefore she will sleep a little, but the girl can call her when she needs her. Clarissa heard someone knocking on her door, and then opening it and asking if the Duchess had arrived. The woman asked if prisoners lived in this room, and then offered to talk. When she saw her, the little girl thought that she looked almost like a duchess who was supposed to marry a duke. Acela says that she hadn't heard anything from Brielle for several days and wondered if something had happened to her, but as far as she knows, every time she was with the Duke, the girl interfered with them and seemed to not want the truth to come out. The lady looked at the baby and said that she was right, and then said that Brielle is stupid if she was caught by a child, and then asks what she should do with this firmware, because she thinks it will be bad if she continues to interfere. The Duchess saw the fairy tales and the diary with the pictures, and the girl says that it is hers and asks to give it back. The lady asks if she wants to continue living with them in the estate. The lady says that they are suitable for each other because she is a prisoner who was supposed to die and a swindler who takes the place of the Duchess. The girl claims that the Duchess is not a fraud, and the woman says that with such a low origin to be called a Duchess is already a fraud. And then she says that when she becomes a Duchess, she will kick Brielle out of the estate, and the same applies to such a dirty criminal as she. The woman looked at the diary and said that she understands that they are on good terms and thinks this is wonderful since they will both sit in prison and draw their absurd drawings. At this time, the main character thought that the inner wall was right because the fake wanted to deceive the lady into making her out to be a criminal. And the little girl thought for a second that she looked like the Duchess, but she was completely different, and that's why she hated her. Clarissa claims that the Duchess will not be kicked out because she is the only Duchess in this estate, and this woman will never be able to displace her. Brielle entered the room and stopped this woman, since she entered the room with Benson. The Duchess asked him to stay outside, And then she turns to this woman and tells her not to touch the child because this matter concerns only them. The lady asks Clarissa if she was very scared and then apologizes and also asks if she can go out with Rosalie for a while, but the girl looked at her in surprise and she suggests her not to worry because they will just talk a little. Acela says that it is very touching because the swindler and the criminal have become close, and then asks if she is afraid that others will find out who she really is. But the lady claims that she is saying this for her sake because such actions harm her child. And then she says that perhaps she is right because she is a simple swindler, but now she is the mistress of this house. Brielle asks if she thought that the servants' eyes and ears belonged to her, and then suggests that they stop and return to the county, and she will order a carriage to be brought to her. Hearing this, the lady objects and then asks if she has gone crazy because she thinks that she cannot leave if her father finds out. Brielle asks if she thinks the count didn't know, and then asks, what about the baby's father? Does he know? Well, after thinking for a bit, she says that it can't be because she doesn't even know who it's from. The Duchess tells her to leave because she won't tell her anything, and then asks who she is and if she feels sorry for her. The woman screams and asks how she dares to pretend to be kind and understanding, and then says that it always infuriates her. The girl suggests that the lady calm down because her voice is too loud. Hearing this, the lady screams and says that she is not the count's daughter, but the daughter of a servant, and then asks if this is true. At this time, Duke Acela came and said that he was just in time, and then said that as he had already heard this woman, the man replied that he knew having heard this woman was surprised. The gentleman explains that he knew from the very beginning that his wife was not the real Acela Darrington. Hearing this, the Duchess is surprised and asks how he explains that their marriage was arranged by the royal family, and then asks if they really thought they could fool everyone by simply substituting the bride. The Duke orders the maid to be brought in, and when the mistress saw her, she was surprised. Maximilian reports that she confessed that the Darringtons took her wife's mother hostage and threatened her for many years. The lady asks the maid how she could hand over their county. The Duke says that he won't catch much because he simply suggests that she return to her place immediately, since her punishment will definitely come later. Acela begs the Duke for mercy, and then screaming says that she should have become his wife because she is the real Duchess and not that homeless girl. The gentleman says that if he hears one more insult directed at his wife, she will not go home but to prison, and therefore suggests not to test his patience. Brielle turns to the Duke and apologizes, then says that she didn't mean to deceive him, but really wanted to tell him everything. She objects and says that these are just excuses, but she is truly sorry. The lady explains that all this time she deceived him and continued to occupy the place of the Duchess. Maximilian asks if she heard him, and then says that he was not deceived because he knew everything and married her. The gentleman says that he hid the fact, so it turns out that he was the one cheating. She asks in surprise, why? After all, she doesn't understand that he knew that she was a fake and wonders why he married her then. The lady asks because he felt sorry for her or simply didn't care. And at that moment, she thought that she didn't understand what was wrong with her because she couldn't thank him. Maximilian explains that he did not feel sorry for her, and then remembers that when he first saw her while he was removing her veil, he realized that she was trembling all over. His Majesty asks who they take the royal family for, because he does not understand how they could find a similar girl and pass her off as a bride. The Duke says that they are similar, and at that moment, he thought that they are completely different. The Emperor says that it is impossible to tell them apart, and then it is reported that most likely she is the illegitimate daughter of the Count, since silver hair is a very rare phenomenon among ordinary people. His Majesty asks what they will do. After all, he believes that they dared to deceive the royal family, and therefore it is impossible to limit themselves to a reduction in status and confiscation of property, but only the death penalty. The Emperor says the same applies to the fake bride. But Maximilian objects and asks to let their marriage take place, and then explains that he does not know why, but has decided that they should marry. At this time, the Duke does not understand how to explain all this to her, and then he says that he can say for sure that he did not do it out of pity. The guy turns to his wife and says that he knows he's late, and then asks her to tell him her real name. At this time, the girl does not understand what to do, because she did not want to stand in front of him with such a look, and then says that her name is Brielle, and begins to cry. The lady apologizes, and then explains that she got something in her eye. Meanwhile, her husband hugs her and tells her that she is now Brielle Sheridan. The main character writes a letter to Noah about how she wanted to write to him as soon as she arrived at the estate, and therefore apologizes for being so late. The girl writes that they had a guest, and that's why she didn't have time to write. It turned out that this guest was a terrible person, because she wanted to throw out the good duchess, and said bad things to her, and tormented her. Clarissa writes that there is nothing to worry about, because when she pestered her, the duchess appeared and protected her. Then she heard from Rosalie that the Duke kicked out this bad man, and then asked what he thinks about it, because he thinks that they are both so good. The baby writes that she can be near such people makes her incredibly happy, and she loves them all very much, and so she thought about it, because she doesn't know what she can do for the estate. The man tells the girl that she does everything well, and that she is good at it. When the Duchess saw the little girl with a broom, she asked in surprise what she was doing. She answered that the gardener taught her how to sweep snow properly. The man says that Clarissa said that she wanted to learn, and since it was safe, he agreed. He says that this girl is learning quickly, and it seems that in a little while she will surpass him, and then smiles. The Duchess says that Clarissa is amazing. The little girl asks if they went out together today. The lady explains that they just met on the way, and the gentleman says that it was a chance meeting. A few minutes ago, Brielle wondered what the Duke was doing, and wondered if she should ask him to go to Clarisse with her, and the young gentleman was thinking the same thing. The doll told the girl all this, and also that when he hugged the lady, her heart began to beat so hard. The main character looks at this couple and thinks that they wanted to deceive her, but she knows the truth, and therefore she thinks that she will not interfere in their relationship. The girl says that she has to sweep the snow near the bell tower, and then suggests that they talk to each other since she is very busy. Brielle asks what's wrong with Clarissa, and the gentleman says that he has no idea either. The Duke turns to the girl and calls her name, and upon hearing this, she was surprised because it was the first time he called her by name. The gentleman says that yesterday he was contacted by the Capitol Hospital and told that a room for Mrs. Woods is ready, and then he says that she will be able to receive proper treatment. Hearing this, the lady was very happy, and then thanks the Duke and says that she does not know how to repay him for this kindness. He claims that he simply did what he had to. Maximilian says that when her mother moves to the hospital and her condition stabilizes, then she can visit her. He says that he still needs to talk to His Majesty about punishing the Darrington family, and then asks if she would mind going with him to the capital. Brielle happily says that she doesn't mind. And at that moment, she thought that she was so glad that she would finally see her mother and couldn't wait for this meeting. The Duke looked at the lady and thought he had misunderstood. At this time, the main character turns to her grandfather and asks him to look because she believes that she has found a treasure. Maximilian looked at the girl's hand and did not understand what was so special about the old glove. The gardener says in surprise that his wife gave him this glove before she died, and he lost it a few days ago and was so upset, and then asks how she found it, because he couldn't, although he tried very hard. At this time, the stone guard says that he lost her near the bell tower and was looking for her in a completely different place, and considers it very depressing to watch this. Clarissa explains that she was just sweeping near the bell tower and saw it, and then says that in any case, she is glad that she found his treasure. The man claims that this little girl is a treasure herself. Hearing this, the Duchess says that she thinks something similar happened last time, because someone lost the recipe in the kitchen, and Clarissa found it, and she doesn't know how she did it, and the servants simply adore her. Brielle says that she feels like the atmosphere in the estate has changed a lot since Clarissa arrived, and thinks that it's her power that lights up everything around her. The lady says that this little girl is so kind and innocent, and then asks what the gentleman thinks. Clarissa turns to the Duke and says that she has done all her business. He strokes the girl's head and then says that he still has some left, and therefore he will go, and she, if she wants, can stay outside. Maximilian says that he leaves this girl to his wife. The lady says that of course she will take care of Clarissa. Quentin looked at the gentleman in surprise and said that he had returned early. He turned to the assistant and said that he needed to write a letter to His Majesty when he would see him to discuss the punishment of the Darrington family. At this time, Maximilian remembered the words of his older brother, that he should not forget that when this girl turns 18, he should bring him her head. The Duke says he has something to tell about the prisoner. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, Chefos, a servant, tells the Queen that this is the reason Duke Sheridan asks to visit the palace. She asks in surprise if her son allowed it. The servant says that His Majesty has ordered the palace to be prepared for the Duke, Duchess, and the captive. She says that she understands and tells him that he can go. When the servant came out of the office, he saw the boy, and he wondered if he had been standing there all this time, and thought that the Dowager Queen Mother was too concerned about her eldest son, but paid almost no attention to the younger one. Mother turns to Prince Valentine and then asks if he remembers Maximilian. The boy replies that he remembers because he is his half-brother and the one who betrayed his mother and older brother and was imprisoned in Sheridan. The Queen says that it is very good that he remembers, and then says that this dangerous man threatens the government and therefore suggests that under no circumstances should he get involved with him, and then asks if he understood. Her Majesty says that she knows that her son is smart and obedient, and then says that he can go. Hearing this, the boy was surprised because he wanted to hug her. The gardener asks if Clarissa is really leaving them, and the cook asks if she is leaving for a whole month and does not understand what they should do since they have everything planned, and also tells her not to forget to try hard in the capital. The girl tells him not to worry because she will return completely healthy, and the Duke says that it is time for them to go. Sitting in the carriage, the main character thought that today she was going to the capital with the Duke and Duchess. Initially, they were supposed to go together, but the Duke said that living in cold Sheridan all the time was harmful to development, and at the same time, they would buy baby things in the capital, and so he allowed the little one to go. The young lady thinks that being away from Sheridan will be sad, but when she thinks that everything is for her to grow up to be a cool 18-year-old girl, it is not so sad. 2 weeks later, the lords arrived at the Eastern Palace. Clarissa says it's just like a fairy tale, and then asks if they're really going to live there. The Duchess says that she will visit her mother in the capital's hospital and will return soon. At this time, the girl heard that the knights were saying that they did not understand how His Highness could settle the Duke in this palace, and they also could not believe that he was given such a small palace when he deserved to live in the main one. The main character realized that His Majesty is the person who did not want her to stay alive, and she thinks that because some criminal came, the Duke and Duchess will live in such a bad place, and she is a fool because she understands that in such a situation, you can't be happy. The Duke turns to Clarissa and asks if she remembers why she came to the capital. She replies that it is because she will not grow up healthy if she continues to sit in the cold Sheridan. Maximilian says that this is why she should try many things and grow up healthy and not think about anything, because he thinks that it is harmful to her. The little girl claims that she will remember this. The gentleman says that he will be gone for a while, so she can go for a walk, but on one condition, that she should not leave the garden. Clarissa tells the Duke that she will work hard to grow up healthy and will eat well and read, and so asks if he can pass on her words to His Majesty if he meets him. Maximilian agrees. When the girl was left alone, she told Softy that she could get out, and Pebble said that she thought she would go crazy from the heat. The little girl says that the Duke gave her permission, and therefore suggests exploring everything there, and then says that she took a backpack with her. Walking through the garden, Clarissa saw a huge tree and said that it must be very old. Softy showed the girl that under the roots there is an entrance to a tunnel, and from there comes the voice of the stone. The girl does not understand why the talking stone is in such a place. She became interested in what it could say, but suddenly she thought that something might happen since she did not even receive permission from the Duke. Clarissa muses that she will go there for a short while to look at the stone and then asks how there could be something dangerous in the palace. The baby says that she is fast, and if she feels danger she will immediately return. When she went inside, she thought that it was darker there than she thought, and she could not see anything. The girl asks the Softies if they have arrived yet. She replies that she thinks they are approaching. The main character thought that it was hard for her because she had been running around the garden all day and therefore had no strength left, but suddenly she felt that there was some kind of obstacle in front of her, and then she saw a boy with blonde hair. Clarissa thought that she had never seen such handsome boys, and thought that he was like an angel descended from heaven, but she didn't understand who he reminded her of. The young gentleman asks who she is and why she is staring like an idiot, and then asks if she is going to apologize. The girl apologizes and explains that she was walking in the garden and accidentally wandered in because she didn't think anyone would be there. Then she asks if it hurts a lot. The boy tells her not to touch him because, judging by her clothes, she is the daughter of some palace servant. And then he claims that this time he will close his eyes, but he thinks that she should be more careful. The guy says that if she tells anyone that she saw him there, he will kill her. Hearing this, she thought that he has an angel's face and a terrible character. The young gentleman thinks that she doesn't know who he is, and therefore won't be able to tell him anything, and then he leaves. The girl screams after him and says that he is Prince Valentine. Hearing this, he asks in surprise how she found out, because he thinks that not every noble person will say who he is. At this time, the main character does not understand what to do because she was so surprised that she said it out loud. And then she remembers that Noah said that she should not tell anyone that she can communicate with stones, but she understands that if she lies to the prince, she can be punished. Clarissa explains that she just looked and understood. He asks in surprise if she really recognized him. At that moment, the girl looked at him and thought that he looked happy. The young gentleman asks her name. She replies that her name is Clarissa and that she has arrived with the Duke and Duchess. The boy asks in surprise if she came with the Duke of Sheridan, and then he says that he has never heard that they have a child and wonders if she is a relative of the Duchess. The girl wanted to answer him, but he said that he was interested in something. But suddenly he heard the maids calling him and said that it was time for him. And then he turned to the little girl and invited her to come to this place tomorrow. The young gentleman claims that this is an order and then asks if she understood. As he leaves, he says that if she does not come, he will really kill her. At this time, the main character thought that she was in trouble. Sitting in her room, Clarissa thought that this prince was very creepy, but she didn't understand why he wanted to meet again. Softy said that maybe he liked her, and then told the girl that she would keep an eye on him. Clarissa says that this can't be, and thinks that the software probably misunderstood. At this time, the red pebble asks how much longer they will discuss this, and then says that he understands that they are excited about the new meeting, but suggests switching to another topic. Softy asks the rock what's wrong with him, because he thinks they haven't talked for that long. He replies that he didn't like the kid, and that even though he's a prince, he's arrogant and rude, and then says that Noah is much better. Softy says that he is just jealous that Clarissa has a friend. besides this child cat. Hearing this, the girl says that she and the prince are not friends, and then remembers that if you think about it, something similar has already happened. Earlier, at dinner, the gentleman asks his wife if she has visited her mother. The lady thanks him and then tells him that she hadn't even noticed how much time had passed while talking to her. The duchess says that her mother is also very grateful to him, and she apologizes that because of her condition, she cannot personally express her gratitude. He says that there is no need to worry because he believes that her health is much more important. The Duke says that after living in the county, it is not easy to adjust to the rhythm of the capital. Brielle thanks him for understanding, and then says that her friend came with her mother, and therefore it was not so difficult. Hearing this, the man asks in surprise if this is a friend from her homeland. She replies that he said it correctly, and explains that his name is Harry, and they were very close as children. Maximilian says that since he is Harry, it turns out he is a man. The girl smiled and said that they are definitely brother and sister because they have known each other for so long, and he is like a son to his mother. The Duchess says she was very glad to see him after such a long time, and then she sees her husband's expression change and asks if she said something wrong. The gentleman objects and says that he asks for forgiveness because he believes that there is nothing worth worrying about. At this time, the main character thought that it seemed to her that the Duke was also in a bad mood. However, she does not understand why he behaves this way because he thinks that it is not so bad to have many friends. The next day, the girl ran to the meeting place, and when she saw the guy, she said that he came first. He screamed and asked if she knew how long he waited for her. The little girl apologized, and he said that, okay, let's move on because he thinks that she came anyway. Clarissa thought that she was indeed a little late, but that was too much since it was not easy to get here quickly. And then she says that there was no exact time set, and she tried to come as early as possible. The girl says that if he sets a time, then next time she will definitely be earlier. Having heard this, the guy is surprised, and then asks if they will meet again next time. The prince says that he really didn't set a time, and therefore apologizes for the unfair accusations. Hearing this, the main character thought that he was not as creepy as she thought. The guy says that in any case, the reason why he called her today, but suddenly felt pain in his hand, and the little girl asks in surprise if he is okay. Valentine says that he thinks he accidentally cut himself. Hearing this, Clarissa suggests that he wait a little, and then climbs into her backpack and takes a medical bandage, disinfectant, and plasters, and then says that it is good that she took a first aid kit with her. The girl asks if he can give her his hand because she will help him. Hearing this, the boy is surprised, and then says that everything is fine because it is just a scratch and he will figure it out. But she claims that this is not possible and says that even if you do not treat a small wound, it will hurt. Clarissa treated the boy's finger, and at that time, he thought that it was the first time he heard such words about how even if you don't treat a small wound, it will hurt. The young gentleman remembers that when he broke his knee and told his mother that it was very painful, she asked if he came only because of this. The main character says that it is ready, and he will not be sick anymore. He looked at her and does not understand why he has such a feeling. The Duke and his companions stayed in the capital in the small palace, and on the morning of the fourth day, the gentleman and his assistant were training. Quentin says he can't beat the Duke, and the gentleman says he should protect his left shoulder better and suggests being careful, and the boy says he'll try harder. Maximilian says that they will return to training at noon, and therefore suggests that they rest. Suddenly, the Duke saw the lady and then greeted her. She asks if he is returning from training. The gentleman replies that he had been training with the knights for a while, and at that time he thought that he had been training with them for many hours and had not washed himself. Maximilian says that he hasn't rinsed yet and therefore understands that he might smell bad. At this time, the girl thought that she shouldn't think like that because the Duke is very nice. Brielle assures him that everything is fine and tells him not to worry because she doesn't smell anything. He asks if she is going to the hospital, and says that today is later than usual. The lady explains that before leaving, she wanted to see Clarissa, but it's good that her temperature has gone down, but she's still worried. After all, it seems to her that the girl was overtired yesterday, and she also wonders why she slept in some water channel. Yesterday that day, Clarissa went out into the garden for the third time, and at some point, everyone lost sight of her. It was getting dark, the rains were coming, and the knights started looking for her, and after a long search, they found the sleeping baby. At this time, the Duke thought that she could have simply fallen asleep while playing, but he was worried that she was found in that channel, because as far as he knows, the place with which he is connected, he needs to check. The gentleman says that he will take care of Clarissa and tells her not to worry, and then he says that her mother is waiting for her, and so he will walk her to the carriage. And sitting in the carriage, the lady says that in fact, she wanted to ask for something because she doesn't know if she can allow herself to do that. He suggests that she speak. Brielle asks if she can stay at the hospital for one night, and then says that it doesn't mean she will sleep there, and explains that Clarissa is just sick now, and while she is in the capital, she would like to spend more time with her mother. The Duke asked about the man Harry, because he wondered if he would be there too. She explains that Harry always stays until dinner and then comes back, but she wonders why he suddenly asked about it. Maximilian was a little embarrassed and said that he understood. He assured her that everything was fine and that she could spend the night wherever she wanted without even asking his permission. When the lady left, the gentleman did not understand why after the words that Harry always stays until dinner and then returns where the bridge became much easier. The Duke saw a canal under the tree and remembered that Clarissa had been found there, and then he thought he needed to check and went there. He saw a shadow and realized that there was a person there. The prince asks, "Who is there?" Seeing him, the master thought that this child is Prince Valentine. Rosalie at this time measures the girl's temperature and says that she finally slept, and then asks if her nose is not stuffy and if her throat hurts. The little girl assures that everything is fine. Nothing hurts anymore. The maid says it's a relief, and then says that exploring the area is fine, but she doesn't think it's worth going to such dangerous places, and asks if the girl knows how worried everyone was about her. The little girl apologizes and then claims that she will be more careful. Rosalie says that she will go to the kitchen and make soup for her to eat with the medicine, and suggests that the girl rest. When Clarissa was left alone, she thought that it was good that the maid did not ask. Softy asks if she is going to continue to hide her meetings with the prince. She replies that she should not tell anyone because she promised. The girl thinks that if she says that she met with the prince, everyone will be shocked, but she thinks that he will not come there again anyway. 2 days earlier on the water channel, when the girl bandaged the boy's finger, she asked in surprise what was wrong with him, since his face had turned very red. The prince turned his head to the other side and thanked her for the treatment. The little girl said that it was not worth the gratitude, and then said that if he got hurt again, she would definitely heal him. The boy asks if she wants him to get hurt again, and Clarice asks why he called her anyway. He replies that it doesn't matter, and explains that he was curious about something. Valentine doesn't know how to explain to the girl that he had no reason because he just wanted to see her, but he understood that he couldn't tell her that, and asks if she said that she came with the Duke and Duchess. He also asks if she lives in Sheridan. Clarissa claims that she lives there, and at that time, she thought that she was a prisoner. The boy says that he heard that it was very cold there. The main character assures that Sheridan is just a wonderful place. Well, it's a little cold there, but when it snows, everything around becomes white and incredibly beautiful, and the food is very tasty, and the people are kind and welcoming. The girl says that she heard that before the Duke's arrival, Sheridan was exactly as Uncle Quentin said, and the guy asks in surprise what that means. The little girl explains that before Sheridan was, as he was described, cold and stern, and they say that the Duke made him so good, that's why they call him the Keeper of the North. Valentine asks in surprise if this is true. The girl explains that she only heard this from Uncle Quentin. but she believes that it is the pure truth because every day the Duke tries for the good of Sheridan, and people love and respect him with all their hearts. Clarissa says that the Duke is the best she knows, and at that time, she thought that she was embarrassed to say that, and then she says that she wants to become like him. The prince asks her to tell the truth, and then asks if the Duke ordered her to say so. Hearing this, the girl is surprised and asks what he is talking about. The guy screams and tells her to stop pretending, and then tells her that he betrayed his brother and mother, so he was expelled. Then he asks if he is now a respected, cool adult, and wonders if she thinks he is so easy to fool. The main character claims that she is not lying, and the Duke is really good because he thinks that he just misunderstood everything he asks, in surprise why she continues to defend him. Valentine looked at the baby and said that everything was clear to him because he believed that she was in league with him from the very beginning, and then turned around and left. Clarissa asks him to listen to her, but he tells her not to follow him because he has nothing to talk about with her. At this time, the main character thought that she did not want to argue with him because she just wanted to clear up the misunderstanding about the Duke, and she does not understand what to do because if she lets him go, she will never see him again. The little girl asks if he will come tomorrow and then says that she will wait. The next day, Clarissa waited for the prince in the water channel for a long time, but he did not come. She was tired and fell asleep right there and eventually fell ill. Lying in bed, the girl thought that she would never meet him again, and she was so glad that she had a new friend. Suddenly, the girl heard someone knocking on her door and then heard the Duke's voice asking if she could come in. She invited him to come in, and when the doors opened, she saw the Duke with the prince. The gentleman says that a guest has come to see her. Seeing the boy, the girl was surprised, and the Duke says that he will go and they can talk. Clarissa apologizes for not being able to stand up and greet him, as she is still feeling a little dizzy. He says that everything is fine, and she can sit up, and then tells her that he heard the Duke say that she has a cold. The girl screams and explains that she is feeling better now and that her temperature has gone down and he can check it himself. He says that he understands everything and that she should not come so close to him. The little girl smiled and he asked why she was laughing. The girl replied that she was very happy because she thought that after that day she would never see the prince again. And then she said that she was really happy that she could meet him again like this. Clarissa thanks the guy for coming to her. However, she became curious about why he came to her with the Duke, and she explains that she means that the prince hates him. The girl claims that she is not asking because she is just curious. The guy says that he is nothing special because he accidentally ran into him, and that is why the Duke brought him to her. And at that time, he thought that in fact, he was caught when he tried to get inside. A few hours ago, when the prince saw the gentleman, he thought that he had black eyes and hair, and that meant he was Duke Sheridan. And he remembered that, as his mother said, he looks really scary. At this time, the boy does not understand how he could meet the Duke there, because he believed that he had no sense of compassion at all, and thought that he would definitely accuse him of trying to get into his castle, and then decides that he needs to run away. The Duke says that he greets His Majesty. Prince Valentine. Hearing this, the boy asks in surprise if he knows him. Maximilian says that he may not remember, but they met when he was very little, and then says that he has grown a lot since their last meeting. At this time, the prince thought that this was true, because Duke Sheridan was not at all like he imagined. The gentleman extended his hand to him and said that it was dangerous there and asked him to come up to him. He screamed and said that he shouldn't give him his hand because he thought he could handle it himself. At this time, the Duke thought that he was wondering how Clarissa was able to fall asleep in the tunnel, and then asks if he is here to see the girl. The prince asks in surprise how he found out about this, and the gentleman says that he will take him to her room and says that he can go with him, of course, if he wants. As they walked down the corridor, the servant said that he was very grateful to the master for that day, and then thanked him for taking care of his family in the capital. The knight asks the master when the day's training will begin, as he would also like to receive instruction from him. Hearing this, Valentine thought that the Duke is the most cold-blooded of those he knows, but he understands that everyone respects and loves him. He thinks that this cannot be, because his mother has told him many times that he is a criminal and betrayed the royal family, and in the end was rejected by his own family and imprisoned in Sheridan. The prince remembers that his mother said that if he wanted to burn happily, he had to obey the laws of the royal family, and so he never left the castle and did not play with useless friends and did not study more than necessary. Oh, the boy thinks that it is because his mother's will was also the will of the royal family. But he thought that he was lucky to meet Clarissa and thinks that if she herself said that the Duke was a bad man and that he was cruel, then this strange feeling would pass. However, Valentine understood that if he had known that he would feel this way, he would not have followed him. The main character asks him, in surprise, what is wrong. He replies that he does not know what is really true and who he should believe. The boy thought that up until this moment, he believed everything his mother said, but he doesn't understand why now he has a different opinion and doesn't know what to do now. Clarissa says that she doesn't quite understand what he's talking about, and then asks if it wouldn't be better if he finds the answer himself. Hearing this, the boy is surprised, and she assures him that he himself said that he doesn't know who to believe, and thinks that this means that all he can do is check everything himself and decide. The girl thinks that if he finally finds the answer, it will become easier. He asks if she wants him to decide for himself, and at this time does not understand how he can go against his mother's will, because he thinks that there is no point in it. But he understands that this girl is right. Valentine says that if you think about it, he doesn't know anything about her, only her name, and therefore offers to tell him, because it doesn't look like she's the daughter of a servant, and he wonders if she's a relative of the Duchess. Clarissa assures that she didn't even think of hiding it, and was going to tell him right away, and fell silent for a bit in order to find the right words. He assures that he doesn't know what's going on, but won't be angry with her, and therefore suggests just telling him. The girl says that she is actually a prisoner from the dreamscape. Hearing this, the prince asks in surprise what she is talking about, and then says that you shouldn't joke like that. The little girl apologizes for saying this earlier and reveals that her name is Clarice Lennon Grezakai, and she is the Princess of Grezakai, who will be executed when she turns 18. Hearing this, the prince stood up so hard that his chair flipped over. At this time, a maid comes into the room and says that she has prepared some cookies for her guest, and at this time, the prince has left. Rosalie asks in surprise what happened and why he ran away. At this time in the royal palace, the Duke says that the punishment for the Earl of Darrington will be the confiscation of property, including his estate. However, His Majesty claims that this is too lenient a punishment for trying to deceive the royal family with a false bride, and asks his brother if this is true. Maximilian thanks him for turning a blind eye to his stubbornness, and the emperor says that everything is fine because he thinks that he also had a good time, because thanks to him, he learned about his brother's tastes. His Majesty asks if he has a question concerning the captive from Grezakai. The Duke says that, as stated in the letter, he has come to request temporary proof of identity for her. His Majesty agrees and says that he was very surprised when he received this letter. He then informs that until Clarissa turns 18, her identity will be linked to Duke Sheridan. The Emperor says something that he still does not understand, because he believes that even temporary confirmation of identity is not an easy matter, and asks why such complications. Maximilian replies that all children in this country are guaranteed safety and education, but it is difficult for her to exercise these rights since she is a prisoner, and therefore until the child grows up. But suddenly, His Majesty interrupts and asks in surprise what he is talking about. And then he says that children need to be provided with safety and a good education, and this only applies to those who have a future. He reminds that this girl is a child who will be killed as soon as she turns 18. The Duke assures His Majesty that this is true, but she still has 9 years before that moment, and he believes that this time is enough for her to learn something and blossom. And then he says that he does not want to take this opportunity away from her. Maximilian claims that she will definitely become a great adult when she turns 18, and therefore asks her to do him a favor. Hearing this, the emperor smiled and said that this meant that everything would be even more fun than he expected, and then said that he understood what his brother meant. His Majesty says that he will send someone to Sheridan later and give him an answer on this matter, and then asks if he does not understand that this problem is not so easy to solve. The emperor says that if he has finished chatting, he can return since he is already tired of working late. After all, he believes that lack of sleep is bad for his skin, and Maximilian says that then he will take his leave. When the Duke went out into the corridor, he heard some girl call his name, and when he looked back, he saw the surprised Queen Davina. She says that quite a long time has passed since their last meeting, and she heard that the Duke came to the castle, but she could not even imagine that she would actually run into him. Max says he is offended, and then asks her to watch how she addresses him. He asks if she is not the queen of the country now, and claims that it bothers him that people in power address him so informally. The queen says that he is still the same, and even drew a line between them, and then asks if he is really okay. She reminds that they were engaged before. At this time, Brielle is walking down the street and thinks that today she can't sleep and thinks it's strange. But suddenly she hears the maids talking about what the whole capital is talking about. The Duchess thought that she wanted to take a walk alone, but even that didn't work out. The maid screams and asks if it's true that she doesn't know that the Duke and the Queen were previously engaged. Then she tells him that they were quite close in their youth, and that Her Royal Highness suddenly broke off the engagement and married His Majesty. And there are rumors that the Duke still has feelings for her. A few days later in the morning, before leaving the capital, the main character looked at a pile of gifts. The Duke says that this time he bought all the things that cannot be found in Sheridan. Brielle claims that Clarissa should be happy, and the maid is surprised to say that there is even a music box there and thinks it is cute. At this time, the girl does not understand whether she really needs all this because it looks very expensive, and also assumes what will happen if Sheridan goes bankrupt because of her. Clarissa thanks the gentleman and says that it is not much. He assures that he understood everything, and the girl says that she has not said anything yet. The gentleman thinks that it seems that this is not enough, and he needs to go to the store again. Hearing this, the main character objects and assures that this is enough. Maximilian says that the carriage is not ready yet, and therefore suggests that the girl wait a little. Standing near the carriage, the girl understands that the prince has not arrived, and she is leaving soon. However, she understands that it is natural that he decided not to see her off, because in fact she is a prisoner. And when she told the prince about this, she saw such an expression on his face for the first time. The main character thinks that he is probably very disappointed in her. Because he is of noble blood, he will definitely not want to see a captive like her anymore. And so she understands him, but still can't help but be upset. Clarissa wanted to wrap the toy in the carriage, but it seemed to be stuck. But suddenly the girl felt that someone helped her, and she heard a voice saying that it was probably difficult to be so clumsy. The main character saw the prince and asked in surprise why he came. The boy asked if she wanted to see him, and she objects and says that not at all, because she is a prisoner, and therefore thought that the prince would hate her now. Since that day, he did not come to play with her. Valentine calls her an idiot and claims that she said she was a prisoner, and then asks how he could see her right away. He explains that he came to her in a hurry because he suddenly learned that she was leaving today. The boy reminds her that she told him that he should make decisions himself because then it will become easier for him, and explains that this is why he has been thinking about it a lot in recent days. The prince asks if she knows what the civil service exam is. He says that it is a national exam, and to pass it, he needs to master all kinds of arts and sciences, and even know history, and moreover, A person's personality also matters. The young gentleman claims that this is an extremely difficult test, and if she passes it, not only will her name be in the newspaper, but everyone will respect her. And then he asks if she understands this. The girl says that it sounds very cool, and the prince says that he is going to pass this exam, and even if his mother is against it, he will definitely pass it and become the best. When Valentine saw the Duke, he screamed and said that he would personally decide what kind of person he was. And then he told the girl that he would personally monitor her behavior on behalf of the royal family. Clarissa asks if this means the prince will be coming to Sheridan. He replies that it is not some pleasure trip, as he is going to keep an eye on her. In any case, he means that it was nice to meet her, and he looks forward to seeing her again. Soon after leaving the capital, a warm spring arrived in Sheridan. The knight tells the girl to stop running, but she ran like that in order to meet Noah. The boy with blue hair says that she shouldn't greet him like that, and the girl explains that she really wanted to meet him and couldn't help herself. Clarice asks if he wants to report to the Duke first. He says he does, but he thinks there's nothing special and that it will all end pretty quickly. She suggests they go see how much the beans she planted have grown in the evening. The boy looks at her and says that she is dressed more brightly than usual, and she is in a good mood. The girl explains that this is a special outfit that she bought and invites him to look at it, and then asks if he likes it. Noah says that it's very sweet, and then asks the lady if she got dressed up like that because he came. The little girl replies that she needs to make a good impression on the teacher who is coming today. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise if she wants to study. Clarissa reminds him that she told him that she wanted to prepare for the civil service exam, and so she talked to the Duke, and he provided her with a tutor. Noah says he hopes he likes it there. I think he must be a good person. The butler tells the mister to wait because the Duchess and the Duke will be arriving soon. And at that time, he thought that he was finally in Sheridan. A few months ago, news appeared that the Duke of Sheridan was looking for a tutor, but the capital's eminent teachers were unwilling to go to Sheridan because it is located in the north and is on bad terms with the royal family, and they fear the wrath of the ruling dynasty. So the news reached Lockhart when he was teaching children of local aristocrats, and when he read it in the newspaper, he thought that there was no information about teaching, except that he was 10 years old, and he was offering such a lot of money, and it was more than a tutor's salary in the capital. Mr. thought that the youngest prince, who was secretly raised by the royal family, was not 10 years old. And at that moment, he remembered the letter he received from his younger brother, who participated in the war against the Dream Kai. The man thought that the rumors that the Duke and His Majesty were on bad terms were false, but he realized that they seemed to be good friends, and he wondered if there was some reason to hide this from the public. But then he didn't really think about whether this student could be the younger prince. The teacher thinks that this is definitely because he does not understand why otherwise they would hide information and pay so much money for it, because he thinks that the Duke and Duchess probably have no more important child. The man believes that this is a great opportunity for him, because if he has experience teaching the prince, then all the aristocrats of the capital will fight to hire him. Lockhart believes that he can finally fulfill his dream. The butler informs the gentleman that the Duke and Duchess have not finished another meeting yet, and so he will have to wait for some time. He assures that everything is fine, as he arrived an hour earlier, and so will wait as long as necessary. And the butler thanked him for his understanding and said that the child really wanted to say hello to his tutor and asked if he didn't mind. Hearing this, Lockhart agreed, and at that time thought about whether it was okay to meet the prince in advance. But when he saw the girl, he was surprised, and the little lady said that her name was Clarissa, and she was glad to meet her teacher. The man thought about how he needed to calm down, and then said that he was also glad to see her, and said that his name was Lockhart, and he would be her tutor, and so she could just call him Lockhart. She said that then he could also call her by her first name. The teacher says that she is very kind, and at that time he thought that he was surprised that it was a girl, but from her behavior and grace, It is clear that royal blood flows in her, and he thinks that maybe she was raised like that, or she was a princess from the very beginning. The man thought that in any case he should show this child everything he can do during these 3 days of trial lessons, and then he tells her to take care of him from tomorrow. After talking with the teacher, the girl went to look for Noah, and when she saw him, he asked if she had said hello to her tutor. The little girl answered that, although she was nervous because she was alone, but fortunately, he turned out to be very kind. Clarissa says that she is a little worried because classes start tomorrow and she is wondering if she will succeed. The boy tells her not to worry because he believes that all a teacher needs from a student is a desire to learn. The little girl says that she is not as smart as Noah, and the teacher can hold classes with her tomorrow and say that he does not want to teach her because she understands that the Duke was able to find him even despite difficult times. But the boy assures that this will not happen because he believes that any person would like her if he got to know her better, and therefore suggests simply doing the same as usual. The next day, the main character was looking forward to meeting the teacher. But when she saw him, she thought that he was in a bad mood today, and remembered that yesterday he was definitely kinder. Lockhart asks what she's doing, and then says, "It's time to start classes." And at that moment, the girl thought that she was wrong, and she still can't believe it. The teacher was told that this girl was the last princess of dreams, and he thought that if he had known about this from the very beginning, he would never have come here. Lockhart thought that the war with the Dreamers that happened not so long ago, and instead of him, his younger brother went to it. And since unprecedentedly few people died in it, he believed that his younger brother would return safe and sound, but only his body immersed in eternal sleep returned. The man remembered that he heard one thing from his colleague, and the one who took his brother's life was the Prince of Grezekai. He believes that the brother of this child killed his younger brother, but the difference is that his brother died and his sister is alive and well, and therefore he will never forgive her. However, the teacher convinces himself that this does not matter because he knows that this child will die anyway, and he just needs to teach her half-heartedly, and then in 3 days he will be fired. Clarissa asks the teacher if he can begin the lesson. He suggests starting with learning to write her full name. And when the girl wrote, and he read, he saw her older brother and his younger brother before his eyes. And then he asks if the lady can write her brother's name. At this time the man saw that she was shaking all over because he had only mentioned her brother, and therefore thought that she would only be a little upset. But he understood that it probably hurt her even to think about it, because her brother most likely died before her eyes, and therefore thought it was much more interesting than he thought. The main character says that she wrote, he says that it is excellent, and asks if she could write her mother's name. The girl looks at him in surprise, and he asks if her mother had the last name Grezekai, and also wonders if she did not participate in the wedding ceremony. Clarissa explains that she knows little about her mother because she has never seen her since she was born. At this time, the man thought that he had never heard her time before, and that meant that she was an illegitimate child. And then he said that he could explain everything to her and offered to watch. Lockhart reports that the last Dream Kai queen, as far as he knows, came from a very influential, aristocratic family. This means that she grew up in a family as influential as the king. The teacher says that her mother gave birth to her, and the queen knew about it, and therefore was afraid that her mother would also gain power, and therefore she killed her mother, and she died because she was born. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and the teacher thought that she should be even more sad and suffer, because he thinks that this is still not enough to ease his anger. Clarissa says that his teaching method, and she feels like he wants to hurt her. He asks why she took it so personally, and explains that he was only trying to explain the facts to her, but he knows it's hard to accept. Lockhart asks if she shouldn't know this, even when everyone else doesn't know about her mother's unjust death, because she believes that there is no one left who could understand this except her. The girl says that he is right, and the man says that he is glad that she finally understood him, and then says that from now on, they will conduct lessons on Grezekai. and he offers to solve a simple math problem. After the lesson, the Duchess says that she came because she heard that her lessons were over and asks how the lesson went because she thinks that it was probably difficult because this is all the first time for her. The lady says that of course studying is hard and suggests that it should also be fun since Clarissa is the one studying and she is the one worrying. The girl tells the Duchess that it was really great and explains that she understood everything they discussed and really enjoyed the lesson, and therefore thinks that the Duke and Duchess should not worry. The little girl apologizes and says that she promised to play with Noah and then asks if she can go. The lady replies that of course she can go and suggests that she be careful. After talking to the girl, the Duchess thought that something was wrong. Seeing her, the Duke asks what happened. At this time she does not understand what to do because she still feels awkward when they are alone with the Duke. Brielle understands that there are rumors that the Duke has not yet forgotten Her Majesty the Queen. However, she thinks that now is not the time, and then says that she came to listen to Clarissa's story because her classes were over, but she thinks that something is wrong with her because she did not look like usual, and suggests that maybe she did not like the class. Hearing this, the gentleman says that in that case they don't need such a tutor, and the lady says that maybe she just imagined it. After all, she understands that it was so difficult to find a teacher, and then asks if they break the contract with him, will they be able to find another one? The Duchess explains that she does not want to limit Clarissa's education just because of her misunderstanding. Max says that if that is the problem, she does not need to worry. The Duke reports that today His Majesty responded to their request and shows the letter. He says that this is not quite what he wanted, but if it is true, then there will be no more problems with finding teachers. Having heard this, the lady does not understand what he is talking about, but when she read the letter, she was surprised. The next day, the tutor offers the girl to talk about taxes. He suggests looking closely at the figure because it says that the taxes collected by the royal family from Grazikai from each region were converted into gold coins and including money for harvest and raw materials. Lockhart wrote down the total amount which was converted into the total output of each region. The little girl insists that the sum doesn't add up. He says that's true and then asks if the taxes collected by the royal family aren't more than the output supplied. The teacher says that the reason why this happened is very simple, because the royal family and the aristocracy used taxes for their own needs. Therefore, the common people could not afford to buy even food, and children born in ordinary families were sold into slavery. Hearing this, Clarissa says that this is very terrible, and the tutor agrees with her and then claims that it was her family who did all this. Lockhart says he doesn't blame her and then asks if she isn't the last surviving member of the royal family. He believes that the girl is also responsible for this, and that is a fact. At this time, the main character thought that the teacher was right, and although no one knew about her origin, the fact was that she was a princess of dreams. Clarissa asks the teacher if she can somehow pay back all these people. Hearing this, he thought that she is easy to control, and then answers that, of course she can. But at that moment, a pebble hits him in the mouth, and he could no longer say a word. The tutor looked out the window and saw the boy who threw a pebble at him. He asked in surprise who this child was and what kind of strange mask he had on his face. The girl turns to him and reminds him that he promised to sit quietly during her classes. Noah claims that he did sit quietly, but even when the teacher started poking his nose into matters that had nothing to do with the state exam, and then asks if he wasn't patient enough, the boy says that he should be ashamed for neglecting his duties as a teacher. Hearing this, Lockhart says that he is an arrogant child and then grabs him by the shirt. The girl tells the gentleman to calm down, and he pushes her and screams for her to get lost. The teacher asks how a small child dares to lecture an adult, and then touches his mask and takes it off. And when he saw his face, he asked in surprise what was wrong with him. At this time, the main character thought that she does not see Noah's face at all, and the teacher screams, calling him a monster. He turns to the girl and says that it is all because of her, and says that if he knew that he would teach her, he would never have come here. The man screams and asks how she even dares to think about the state exam. He claims that there are people who died unjustly because of the Grezekai royal family, and then asks how she plans to live so shamelessly. The teacher thinks that she should live the rest of her time in atonement and suffering. And then he leaves the office. Noah helps the girl up and asks if she's okay. Then he says that he simply has to tell the Duke about this because he believes that she shouldn't allow herself to be treated like that. Clarissa says that the teacher was right because it doesn't change the fact that she is the princess of a sinful country. And when she thinks about the people who suffered at the hands of her family, she thinks that maybe she doesn't deserve to live as well as she does now in Sheridan. The boy claims that the princess was definitely born in the lands called Grezekai and believes that this should not bind her. However, after all, any person can leave the lands where he was born and live happily if he has the desire to move on. The main character thanks the guy for such words and then asks if he is trying to calm her down. He explains that he says this because in her place, he would do exactly the same, and then says that she has no such obstacles. The girl realized that the barrier was his mask, and then said what the teacher said. Noah interrupts her and says that she has nothing to worry about because he is already used to it, and then says that in some sense, he really is a monster. Hearing this, Clarissa screams and insists that he should not say that again because he is not a monster, and he says that the girl did not see his face. The main character explains that he doesn't really show it, and therefore believes that she has no other choice, and asks if she can take a look, but if he doesn't want to, then she doesn't insist. Noah says that on his face is the curse of his mother, but he never saw her, but people said that she was a powerful sorceress that everyone was looking for, and she was the only master of golems. The boy says that apparently she, like other sorcerers, was overcome by a thirst for research, and she transplanted the golem into her own child, and so he was born neither a man nor a golem, but a real monster. Noah explains that to his mother, he was just another experiment. Hearing this, Clarissa screams and objects, then explains that of course, she doesn't know much about his mother, but she certainly didn't think of him as an experiment, and she thinks she definitely loved him. The girl says that if his mother really abused him for this reason, then she must be a very bad person. The boy says that she is the only one who said something like that about his mother because everyone does nothing but idolize her. Noah asks the princess if she wants to see his face. She says yes, if he doesn't mind. And the boy says he thinks he can show her, and then asks if she's scared, then he shouldn't force her. She assures him that she's not scared at all, and promises that she won't be scared. The boy says that he will close his eyes so that the princess can see everything. And at that moment, he thinks that he can't believe that he himself suggested doing this. But now he feels uncomfortable. He is even afraid that she might be afraid of him. And then he takes off his mask. Clarissa says with delight that it is very cool, and claims that it is very beautiful. Hearing this, the boy is surprised, and the girl asks if she can touch it once, because she thinks it is very beautiful. The guy screams and tells her not to make fun of him, then asks what's so beautiful, and claims that she's just awful. The main character touches his face and says that he is really beautiful. She says that she understands that he suffers because he is different from others, but she likes that the stones on his face sparkle like jewels. Noah looked at the girl in surprise and said that she really is strange because he can't believe that she likes what others are afraid of. The girl says that she does not understand those who are afraid and believes that they simply do not know what beauty is because these are the most beautiful and incredible stones that she has ever seen. A few minutes later, the main character saw that the boy had put the mask on again and then asked in surprise why he had done that. Noah said that was all for today. Clarissa says that she wants to see more, and he assures that it is enough for today, and if she wants, he will show her next time. After all, no one except her has seen this face. The main character excitedly asks if she can touch the stones on his face next time. He replies that no problem. At this time, a maid comes into the room and asks the girl if everything went well today, and then says that her lord is the count and wants to tell her something. Hearing this, the girl got scared because she thought that something had happened. At this time, the teacher was collecting his things and thought that this was a curse, and all because of this captive and this monster. He thinks that he needs to urgently leave this cursed suburb. The butler asks Mr. Lockhart, and at this time the man thought that Clarissa had already told the Duke about what happened today, and he did not know what excuse to come up with. The butler asks the teacher if he is free this evening, and then informs him that a very important person has decided to come to this estate today, and a banquet is scheduled for this evening, and the Duke and Duchess have said that they would like to see him there. Lockhart asks who the important person is that is coming. The servant replies that he was not listening carefully, and they said he was from the royal family. At this time, the teacher thought that he could dine with the royal guests and considers it a one-in-a-million opportunity. The butler asks if he can say that the master will be there too. The teacher replies that he will, of course, read it as an honor and will definitely come, and then asks if Clarissa said anything about the lesson today. The butler says that he did not hear anything specific, and then asks if something happened. Lockhart thought that he couldn't miss the opportunity to sit at the same table with royalty, and thought that if he was careful, he would be on the road to success. However, he was a little uneasy about Clarissa and that child, and thought that everything was fine because he had prepared everything in advance. The teacher came to the girl and apologized, and also asked her not to tell the Duke about what happened, because he thinks that he is not so busy, and then asks if he will be angry if she bothers him with such trifles. The tutor thought that there was no chance that the captive would be a guest at the evening dinner, and therefore he could not wait to surrender to this dinner. Lockhart has prepared himself, but does not understand why no one is coming for him, because he has been waiting for a long time, and he has not received any news. And he also understands that it is impossible for the dinner to be suddenly cancelled. I think that maybe they just forgot about it. The man thought that in any case he can't just wait, and then he goes out into the corridor and sees Queen Davina, and he was also surprised because this girl was with the Queen. Her Majesty congratulates the girl and says that when she said that she would become a sealed person when she turned 18, His Majesty was very impressed, and therefore he decided to personally take her under his wing. The Queen says that she sincerely hopes that she will become a wonderful person, and then offers to tell her personally what she wants to learn or achieve in the future, since until she comes of age, she will be under the protection of the royal family. Clarissa thanks the lady for her generosity. The Queen says that she heard that they were having some trouble finding teachers, while Lockhart, crying out, says that it seems the butler forgot to call him. Then he assures her that everything is fine, and he is glad that he was able to come. The tutor greets His Majesty the Queen, and informs her that his name is Lockhart, and he is Lady Clarissa's teacher. Her Majesty asks if they have a tutor. The man replies that one is certainly not enough, but that's how it is, and says that he was always worried about teaching such a talented child alone. The teacher says that he can now finally team up with teachers from other disciplines to provide a better education, and then says that he is really happy about this, and asks the girl if she agrees. Clarissa agreed, and he offered to work hard together, and then said that he would not dare to deceive her expectations. The Queen says that she thinks that she should step away for a while, and therefore asks to wait for her, and at this time all the guests have also left. Lockhart doesn't understand what's going on, and then screams and asks Clarissa if she really told him everything. The main character says that she is very sorry that she could not keep her promise, and then says that she does not want him to teach her anymore, and she thinks that perhaps the method of redemption that he spoke about is really correct. But she wants to become a wonderful person for those who trust her and for those who protect her. Hearing this, the teacher does not understand how the girl who trembled just from one of his words now behaves like this, and at this time he thought that he could not miss the child who is under the protection of the royal family. Lockhart turns to the girl and asks her to listen, then says that he is very sorry and offers to discuss everything again. At this time the Duke comes to him and tells him to stop. The teacher claims that this is all a big misunderstanding and he does not know what Clarissa told him, and then says that during training it is quite natural for children to resist a little, and therefore they can sometimes slightly exaggerate what is said. The gentleman offers him to tell here and now what lesson he taught Clarice, and then asks why he cannot do it in front of him. He says that in any case there is nothing to discuss, and therefore offers to leave this place. The Duke says that the reason he is so kindly sending him away is because it was his fault, because he thinks it was a mistake to let the man into the palace without conducting a thorough investigation. And then he says he hopes he'll get a good job outside these walls, and if he can find one at all. Rosalie asks the girl if she and Noah decided to go and look at the stars today. The main character says that when Sir Benson showed her around, he said that in the knight's quarters there is a place where they can be seen very well, and the maid says that it sounds great. Clarissa says that she feels really good when she brushes her hair, and then says that she thought that Rosalie was the queen of brushing. The maid says that she is very pleased that their sweet girl praises her, and then asks how she always manages to say such nice things. The main character says that she is sure that there are those who want to say something bad to her. Hearing this, the maid was surprised and asks the girl why she says such a thing. Clarissa replies that it is because she's the last member of a sinful dynasty, and she knows that she should not listen to these bad words, but nevertheless, she feels very weak, and this makes her afraid. The girl asks if it is selfish that she wants to become a wonderful person. Rosalie says that she understands what the princess means, because she believes that she cannot forget about everything by saying that she could not do anything, because sometimes being happy seems wrong. The main character asks Rosalie if something like this has ever happened to her. She replies that it has been almost 20 years, and when she was young, she worked in the mansion of the Marquis of Kurna and took care of a 4-year-old girl. But one night, when she was not around, the girl who was sleeping in her room was kidnapped, and all this was so carefully thought out that even the knights did not suspect anything. Rosalie noticed this too late and was never able to find her. Hearing this, the main character cannot believe that something like this happened to the maid, and the woman says that she still cannot forgive herself for that day because she believes that she should not have stayed up all night and been near her, and if something like this happened again, she would have done so. Clarissa takes the woman by the hand and assures her that it is not her fault, since she herself said that even the knights did not notice anything. The girl says that even if Rosalie had been there, she still wouldn't have been able to deal with these kidnappers on her own. The maid says she knows, but the pain of letting it happen is so excruciating that she can hardly bear it. That wonderful silver hair and eyes the color of the sky. And if she could only see her again, she would be incredibly happy. Hearing this, the little girl was surprised because it seemed to her that this girl who disappeared looked like a duchess. The maid dressed the girl and said that it was quite chilly at night, and therefore she should take care and be sure to wear a coat and hat so as not to catch a cold. Clarissa asked Rosalie before leaving if she wanted to hug her. Hearing this, the woman smiled and then hugged the girl, and she thanked her. Before this, the main character always wondered if it was selfish for her to want to become a wonderful person. But after Rosalie told her her story, she realized that despite the fact that she carries the pain of the past, she still has enough strength to live a full life. The girl believes that such a person simply cannot be selfish, and therefore she too will become a wonderful adult when she turns 18. Clarissa thanks the woman and says that she is the best teacher she could ever have, and Rosalie asks where such a good child came from, because she is sincerely grateful to her for such words. When Clarissa saw the Duke and Noah, she asked in surprise if they had come together. The gentleman explained that he had only looked in for a minute and had met Noah when he passed by. He says that he is going to the knight's quarters, and Benson will go with her, but still asks her to be careful. And then he tells the guy that he should dress warmer because the temperature at night is quite low. The boy says that everything is fine, because he thinks that he will not get sick because of this. And at this time, the girl thought that Noah must still be awkward. Clarissa takes the boy by the hand and suggests that they go faster. The Duke looked at them and thought that it was very cute, and they looked very happy. The Queen says that she thinks that they were the same as children and asks if he remembers. The Duke asks Her Majesty in surprise what she is doing at such a late hour and without an escort. She apologizes and says that there are too many eyes watching them today. The Queen explains that she had something important to tell him and therefore hopes that he will spare her a minute. The gentleman says that he and his assistant Quentin will wait for her tomorrow and then leaves. Davina screams and objects, explaining that she said it was important and no one else should hear it. The lady says it's only for a minute since she's come all the way, and then asks if he wants to send her away. Maximilian says that the minute is already ticking. She suggests getting straight to the point and asks if he really wants to raise the princess of the dreams. Hearing this, the gentleman was surprised, and the lady said that she knew that this girl was sweet and smart, but she was saying this for his own good, and then said that he should execute the princess right tomorrow. The Duke says he doesn't understand what she's talking about, but he can't do it until she turns 18. Her Majesty asks if he knows why the Emperor decided to become her guardian. He replies that it is because he asked for it. She objects and assures him that he only asked to sponsor the duchy. The Queen says that His Majesty really expects her to achieve great things, and then asks him if he is absolutely sure that he does not know the reason. Maximilian asks in surprise what she is trying to say. She replies that he wants the Duke to love this child because he believes that even for an ordinary child, such growth is astonishing, and Clarice really has the desire to work hard. Davina is informed that His Majesty gave her wings so that she could fly as high as possible in the allotted time, and so that despite this, he will be proud of her and eventually love her. Her Majesty asks if he now understands that His Majesty wants him to fall in love with Clarissa and personally end her life, thereby making him suffer even more. The Queen claims that this is why she needs to be executed as soon as possible, so that this does not happen, and then says that she will find a way to get him a special permit and asks what he thinks about it. Maximilian confidently answers that he cannot do this, and the lady is surprised to hear this. He suggests pretending that this conversation did not happen, and if this is all, he will leave her. But the Queen grabs his hand and tells him that she is truly worried about him. At this time, the Duchess came out into the corridor and was surprised to see them. Davina asks the lady what she is doing at such a time. She replies that she just can't sleep, and so she decided to take a walk, and then explains that she didn't want to interrupt them, and so she is very sorry, and then leaves. The Queen smiled and asked what they should do now, because it seemed to her that the Duchess had misunderstood everything, and then said that it didn't matter because it was an arranged marriage anyway. Maximilian takes his hand back and then leaves, and at that time the Queen thought that everything between them was real. Brielle doesn't understand what to do because she witnessed such a scene, and she thinks that the rumors that the maids were talking about are true because they still can't forget each other. But suddenly, the Duchess tripped and fell. Her clothes got dirty. She broke the lamp and thought that she looked very pathetic now, but she didn't understand why she ran away like a fool and thought that she definitely made a bad impression. The Duchess thought that Her Majesty was truly beautiful, and it was no wonder that the Duke could not forget such a beautiful bride. But compared to her, a woman of unclear origin had nothing to offer or show, and therefore she was not comparable to her. Brielle thought that she needed to go back and clean up the shards, because she felt that she couldn't let anyone see her like this. At this time, the Duke comes up to her and asks if she is okay, as he thinks she is hurt. She assures that everything is fine, and thinks there is no need to worry. The lady says that what is more important is that he came here, and then claims that Her Majesty will probably not like it. Maximilian replies that he doesn't care, and the girl asks in surprise how it doesn't matter, since even she knows that there are two of them. The gentleman interrupts her and says that recently Her Majesty only gave him advice regarding Clarissa's future, but her opinion slightly differs from the will of the royal family, and she came to express it to him. The Duke explains that they were only formally engaged and that he had no feelings for her. Then he asks for forgiveness if he behaved unfairly. At this time, the girl does not understand why he constantly confuses her, because she begins to build hopes and become disappointed, but she does not want this anymore. Brielle tells the Duke that she is truly grateful that he accepted her despite her unclear origins, and then tells him that she wants him to stop caring about her because they are not a real couple. The Duchess remembered the gentleman's words that he planned to declare this marriage invalid and make her free in a few years. The girl asks if he wasn't going to make it, as if this relationship never happened. And at that moment, she thinks that she said this, touching on the problem that she tried so hard to avoid. The lady thinks that instead of suffering again, later, it is better to accept the pain now, and then assures that everything is fine, and he does not need to apologize, because she already knew. The gentleman objects and says that he did not mean it that way, and explains that he mentioned the annulment of the marriage because she did not want him, and he knew that one day he would have to let her go. Maximilian says that he knows that these words are a manifestation of his selfishness, and then says that he does not want to lose her and wants her to continue to stay in Sheridan. After these words, the Duke hugs the girl and says that there are fragments behind her. She asks what his recent words mean, because she is not an aristocrat and does not understand when people speak in hints, and therefore asks him to say directly what he meant. Maximilian says that he loves her. Having heard this, the girl does not understand how this is possible, because she thought that these feelings were not destined to exist in reality, and that the Duke could not love someone like her, and she was sure. Brielle doesn't understand why she only realized now, because he always looked at her, and therefore believes that she was the one who closed the door to his heart. The lady says that she likes him too, and then starts crying, and says that she always likes him, and she loves him, and then the gentleman kisses the girl. At this time the children look at the stars. The little girl asks if the nearby constellation is called Corona. Noah says that there is a legend that some god sent a crown into the sky in memory of the deceased princess. Clarissa says that after his words, you can really see the crown, and then asks how he knows so many constellations. He explains that for magicians, this is basic knowledge. Suddenly, the boys saw that Sir Benson was very tired and snoring because he was sleeping. This knight who came to protect the children fell asleep faster than them. The boy asks if she should also go back and go to bed, since she understands that it is already late. Well, the girl objects and says that everything is fine and she doesn't want to sleep yet. She also understands that he is leaving tomorrow morning and therefore wants to stay together a little longer. Noah claims that she can't be stopped and then says that then just a little bit more, but soon he will send her back. Hearing this, the girl smiled and agreed with him. The main character thought that before leaving, she should tell him that she will be executed upon reaching adulthood, but she understands that for now, Noah only knows that she is a prisoner from the dream Kai. However, she does not understand why she cannot tell him the truth, but she thinks that it is time to do so. The girl understands that he trusted her and even showed the face that he always hid. And then she asks him to listen, but he interrupts her and says that he wanted to ask something. The boy looked at the girl and asked why she was scared. She explained that everything was fine and then asked what he wanted. Noah says that he wants to know if she keeps her promise to him about hiding her ability to communicate with stones. Hearing this, Clarissa realized that he was talking about that conversation, that no one should know that she communicates with stones. And then she answers that, of course, she didn't tell anyone. He says that this is very good and suggests continuing. The main character says that she has been curious about something for a long time, and then asks why it is impossible for others to find out. Of course, she is worried that people will find it strange, but she does not understand why he slanders her like that. Noah replies that she was bound to find out someday, and then asks if she remembers what he said about his mother being the last golem master. Clarice says that of course she remembers, because his mother was an outstanding person. He claims that she also has the abilities of a golem master. The guy says that he thinks you can call her a full-fledged master. Hearing this little girl was surprised, and then asks what it means, because she does not understand how she can be a master. Noah insists that she speak more quietly, because it is very audible. Clarissa is surprised that the golem master has the ability to control huge stones, and she can only talk to them. The boy objects and explains that, to be precise, the golem master can imbue the stone with his magic and give it life, and then claims that there is already one like that next to her. The main character asks if he's talking about Melanie, and he claims that they are proof that she is a golem master. Hearing this, the little girl was surprised, and then asked if he really had such an incredible ability. He claims that in any case, if he continues the story, then after the death of the mother's yoke, the magicians have been desperately trying to find a new master of golems for several years. Noah says that if they find out about her, they will certainly take the magicians to the castle. And the girl, surprised, says that she is a prisoner and the Duke will not allow it. The young man claims that if the Duke does not allow it, they will not shy away from any means, even if it means starting a war. Hearing this, Clarissa understood that something so terrible would happen again. I think that it would all be because of her. She was very scared, but Noah assures that everything is fine and nothing will happen. The guy apologizes for being too careless and thinks he shouldn't have told her about it. He says he's sorry and then hugs the girl. Clarice says that even if she hides carefully, those people will find out everything, and then asks what she should do, because she doesn't want Sheridan's people to die because of her. The main character thinks that it would be better for her to be alone until she comes of age. But the guy interrupts her and says that then he will run away with her and take her to a place where no one will find them. Nayo understood that he had to answer for his words, because he already had an idea, but he was not sure that Clarissa would agree, because it was very dangerous.